Alright, just a little thing before I'm going to start this reading. I need to warn you, this is a extremely long story, so you might want to grab, something to eat, maybe a drink, maybe a bucket of popcorn or something, because you're going to have to sit down for this one, because this is one extremely long freaking reading. Enjoy. What is up, every pony? It's the Rainbow Brony here, bringing you another The Rainbow Brony's Nightmare Night. Yay! All right, so yeah, another Nightmare Night. It's been a while since I've done these, and even any reading at all. And as you may have looked at the title, it's Silent Ponyville. The one I'm going to be reading is the entire remastered version. I'm, just because it's remastered. So, as the description on Equestria Daily reads, Pinkie Pie is being tormented by horrific nightmares. Unable to deal with it by herself anymore, she seeks out Twilight's help. But will it have been the best decision when she finds herself alone in an abandoned, fog-filled Ponyville? I am not sure, but we'll find out. So I've read this one before, but I recorded it, but the microphone derped and it did not save it, so that was a nice 2 hours wasted. I don't think I would have put it up anyway because at the end I was speaking very monotone because I was like really tired. Alright, so if you guys want to read me to read any other versions, do you want me to read the Silent Ponyville 2 maybe? Or whatever, just send it to me, leave them in the comments or whatever. And just so you guys know, I'm going for one more time. I'm going for the old style of recording, just for the sakes of remembering old times. I'm once again using the microphone I always used to use. I have to hold it in my hand and hold it to my mouth, instead of the headset I used in the Luna game and stuff. So and I actually watched the movie Silent Hill. Derp. It was a good movie, I guess, but it wasn't that scary. It was creepy though, and pretty gory as well. So yeah, this is a crossover grimdark fanfic. Let's get it up. Let's see here. Silent Ponyville. Warning: grimdark. Reader discretion is advised. Cool. All right, chapter 1. There's actually 2 people watching here. Awesome. All right, chapter 1. Pinkie Pie's eyes shot open. Her face was buried in her pillow, stained from her tears. She quivered as she very gently tried to lift herself up from the bed. She was afraid of seeing her bed soaked, covered in blood, evidence of a horrific deed she had committed. However, her bed was dry, only her pillow stained with tears. She gently placed a hoof on her face, feeling the fresh tears on her cheek. She shivered as her hair moved to cover her eyes, still in shock at the sight she had seen. Wow, she's going for nightmares. How could I? The vivid images of the nightmare she just slept through came back in her mind. Horrific cries rang vividly in her ears, her coat soaked with blood, the feeling of slicing open another living being. It felt so real. Pinkie Pie shook her head viciously, trying to remove these thoughts from her head. Why am I having these dreams? She rammed her hooves into her forehead, trying to stop the images that were assaulting her. I'm assaulting him with cake. I'm assaulting him with sauce. Oh, God. For the past 2 weeks, she'd been having restless nights of sleep. Every night she had been a nightmare, each growing in severity with each episode. Ooh, it's a series. The first dream hadn't been too scary. She was just attacked by a monster. She had shrugged it off easily, and she'd had a normal day after it. From there, the monsters changed. One night, she was attacked by the Pony of Death, who wanted her soul for damnation. Another night, it was a faceless, slender pony, whose presence quaked her very being. Then the next night, she suffered from a disease and starvation as her body had begun to rot, but was denied death from the pain. Wow. This is starting off pretty nice, though. Loving it. She could handle those dreams. They weren't real after all. A good party with her friends made all those scary thoughts go away. What? It's Pinkie Pie. Giggle of the ghosty, right? She tried changing her diet for a day to see if the bad dreams would go away, and it worked for a night, but only for one night. The next night she had dreamt of being a monster, one with sharp teeth and claws. She was the monster and that had attacked and eaten her the night before. Inception? Oh god. She still remembered the gagging taste the dream had left in her mouth. Mmm. Me gusta. The next dream had her terrorizing ponies throughout Ponyville. She'd wrecked homes, crops, products, and lives. Then the next night she attacked each of her friends. She could feel the berserk rage of the monster as it had slashed and tore them apart indiscriminately. However, she took solace in the idea of being quick and painless. Her friends didn't suffer from her. Well, that's nice. From her attacks. But the dream last night was different. It was personal. She was a monster again last night, but it was different. She was just herself. No fangs, no claws, no berserk rage, but a monster. In the dream, she had captured her friend, her dearest friend Rainbow Dash. She had taken sharp objects and... Cupcakes, anyone? Pinky dashed into her bedroom. Lol. Before emptying the contents of her stomach into the toilet, as the vivid images of what she'd done in her dream flashed before her once more. Delicious. She felt wretched. How could her mind even come anywhere close to thinking of such horrible, horrific things? She loved her friends. She loved them more than the sun, than her sweets, than her parties, than life itself. Especially Rainbow Dash. Rainbow Dash was the coolest, most awesome, fun-loving pony she'd ever met. If she wanted to just hang out and have fun, or pull some pranks, or share some sweets, or help throw a great party, it was Rainbow Dash who was there for her. Okay, so it's obvious that she loves her friends, as described in the entire season 1 and 2, but whatever. She wiped her mouth as she groggily looked at herself in the mirror. Her mane was straight, her eyes were bloodshot with bags under her eyes. Her coat was dull with a sickly look. She was breathing quite heavily. She looked terrible. Girl's going emo. She ran some cold water and repeatedly splashed her face with it. She really, really, really wanted to go see Rainbow Dash. She had to know she was okay, but at the same time, she couldn't do it until the memories of that dream had faded some more, and she had to get out of Sugar Cube Corner for the day. She wouldn't be able to hold back any more of her stomach if she even smelled a cupcake. I knew it. I knew it was referencing the cupcakes. I fucking knew it. Pinky tried to stay in the shadows of the buildings as she quietly walked through Ponyville. The fresh air and warm sun weren't any comfort today. She didn't want to look at any pony either, worried their faces would trigger another flash of the awful images in her mind. She had nowhere in mind to go. She just had to wander, had to get away from Sugar Cube Corner, from her room, from anything that would remind her. Okay, that's going to be pretty difficult because you were attacking them in Ponyville and you would have to get out of Ponyville itself. Okay. She looked up and around. She had lost track of how much time has passed since she started her little trek. Thankful no one had stopped to ask her why she was acting so differently today. She knew the other ponies had started to notice dips in her cheeriness. Ever since the dreams had started, she'd been throwing more parties than ever before, but more and more they weren't enough. Twilight had even asked her if something was the matter, and she'd done her best to reassure her friend. Okay. This just reminds me of Party.mov, just throw parties and... You know what, never mind. Wait, Twilight! Twilight was a great magical pony. If any pony could figure out a way to stop these dreams, she did. She winced at the idea of having to tell Twilight about the horrific things her mind had imagined about her and her friends. But maybe she wouldn't have to. Twilight might find a solution without having to know what she'd been dreaming about. Believe me, she will. She picked up her pace, running straight for the library. It didn't take her long. She figured her body must have been taking her there by instinct. It did have a funny way of working that way. No, you just broke the fourth wall again. I'm sorry. She ran to the door and knocked a little frantically? I don't know. It didn't take long for the door to creak open. Eh? Creepy door opening. Nobody inside. Oh, hey, Pinkie Pie, Twilight said, surprised but happy to see her friend. Is this an invitation to a party again? Twilight stopped as she blinked, noticing the distressed look of her friend. Are you alright, Pinkie? You don't look so good. No, I'm not good, Twilight. Can I come in? Pinkie asked, minding her manners for once. Wow, Pinkie minding her matters. Minding, derp. She always just comes bursting in or just breaks the fourth wall and just appears somewhere. Of course, Pinkie Pie, please make yourself at home, Twilight said, quickly offering her friend hospitality. Thank you, Pinkie spoke softly as she quietly trotted into the house. She quickly headed for the table in the center of the room and sitting on one of the red velvet pillows before it. She rested her head on the table, closing her eyes as she took a soft sigh to try and relax. Is it sig or sigh or whatever? I don't know. Can I get you something to drink? Perhaps some hot chocolate? Twilight asked, remembering her friend's favorite beverage. No sweets, please. If you have some coffee, that'd be great. No cream or sugar, Pinkie softly groaned. Coffee? Since when does Pinkie drink coffee? I've tasted coffee a couple times. I think it's horrible. No, it's not the caffeine that keeps me from drinking it. I just don't like the taste of it. No sweets? Twilight asked in shock. Oh my, this really is serious. She realized as she quickly prepared her friend the hot drink she requested. She levitated it before Pinkie, who thanked Twilight groggily and began to drink. She grimaced at the bitter taste. I guess Twilight would drink coffee because she, at the time travel episode, like she stays up for a long time. I guess she must have drank something to keep her awake. Something that has a buckload of caffeine in it. Pinkie, what's the matter? You can tell me, Twilight said, sitting down next to her downcast friend. Twilight could see the signs. Her mane was straight, her coat was dull, her eyes bloodshot with bags under them, and most noticeable of all, she wasn't radiating an energetic aura of Pinkie Pie. The fuck? She not radiating party? What the hell? That's weird. That's really weird. I can't believe it. That shouldn't happen. What the hell? Oh, Twilight, it's awful. Pinkie put her hopes over her head. It's the most awful thing that ever happened to me. I can't... Oh my god, I should read this quick. It's the most awful thing that ever happened to me. I can't even believe what happened to me. It's so awful. I can't sleep. I can't rest. Even parties aren't helping. I need relief. I need to stop this. But everything I've tried only seems to make it worse, Pinkie said. Her voice was quivering. Oh my god, but I just did that. Sorry. Twilight couldn't help but be surprised at how terrified her friend sounds. Pinkie, tell me, what exactly is this awful thing that has happened? Twilight tried to reassure Pinkie that everything would be alright. Pinkie took a big breath, steeling her nerves. Yay! No. I've been having nightmares, Twilight, Pinkie finally said. Awful, horrible, relentless nightmares. I was throwing more parties to forget them, but they kept coming. I tried changing my diet. I tried relaxing before bed. I even tried falling asleep while doing a handstand with a lemon in my mouth in the shower. Nothing works. And last night's nightmare was the worst of them all. Falling asleep while doing a handstand with a lemon in your mouth in the shower? Seems legit. Nightmares, Twilight said, tapping her chin for a moment. 1 second, she said as she got up and quickly ran over to a bookshelf. She began to pull out books, checking them out, scanning them one by one. No, not you. You're not right either. It took a moment, but Twilight finally pulled out a purple book and looked at it satisfied. Aha! She said before trotting back to the table and opening the book, flipping through the pages quickly. Nightmares, nightmares, nightmares. Twilight began after having stopped on a specific page. A dream with strong negative emotions, a common occurrence that most ponies will experience. However, if the nightmares should persist or become more terrifying with each episode, it could be several reasons. External forces such as medication or diet, which we have already ruled out. Medication? What? First we get doctors, then we get medication? Drugs? What the hell? And isn't Pinky's medication candy? Sugar? Twilight added an addendum. External stress from recent physical or mental events or caused by a physiological event from any time during a pony's life that has left a deep impact. There are several ways to determine what kind of nightmare is being experienced and what the best manner of treating them are, Twilight said before silently reading the next part. Twilight, why you don't read the next part? I want to know. So, that book can help me stop the nightmares? Pinky asked, hope rising in her heart. Looks that way. Of course, it can't stop you from having nightmares for the rest of your life, though. They're a normal part of sleep, but it can help you with your constant nightmare issue, she said, still reading. There is a spell in here that'll let me look into your mind and see the memories of your dreams. That way I can see what you've been dreaming about and apply the proper spell on to try and help. Oh boy. That's, yeah. Let's just read on. It'll become obvious. The hope that had risen inside Pinkie Pie, inside blah, 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 blah. I can't speak. Had risen inside of Pinkie, fell into her gut like a boulder into a lake. No, 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 Twilight, Pinkie said, shaking her head furiously. You can't see my dreams. They're too horrible, Twilight. I don't want any pony to see what I've seen. Her voice was trembling. Tears were threatening to leave her eyes once more. Sorry, I can't make my voice tremble that easily. She looked up when she felt Twilight's hoof placed against her shoulder, the look of concern on her face. I can't imagine what kind of dreams you've been having, Pinkie, but I can see the pain on your face. It's affecting who you are, and I just can't let this go. You came to me for help, and I'm going to help you. Please, you have to let me see what you've seen so that I can help, Twilight pleaded to her friend. Pinkie lowered her head as she held back the tears burning at her eyes, swallowing hard as she knew her friend wanted to make everything better and might have the power to do so. Twilight, just prepare a puke bag or something, because this is about to get ugly. Twilight, Pinkie muttered in a hushed breath, holding back a sob. Yes, what is it, Pinkie? Twilight asked in a similar hushed voice. Please, you have to promise me that what you're about to see won't change your opinion of me. Pinkie sniffed deeply. Well, that's gonna be difficult, Twilight. I swear, Pinkie, I won't think of you as anything but the dear friend I know and love, Twilight said. Pinkie saw her smile. It was so reassuring, so comforting. Pinkie Pie swear? Pinkie asked one last time. Twilight just seemed to smile a little amused. Cross my heart and hope to fly, stick a cupcake in my eye. Twilight did the motions of the Pinkie Pie swear, mimicking sticking the pastry into her face. Pinkie took a moment to let it sink in, then squeezed her eyes and lowered her head. Okay, here comes the good part. Or at least I hope so. Alright. I trust you, Twilight, Pinkie Pie softly muttered as she did her best to prepare for whatever was going to happen next. Twilight nodded softly as she remembered the spell from the book, her horn glowing with light as she concentrated on it. She gently swept hair covering Pinkie's forehead behind her ear to hold it, then gently tapped the tip of her horn against Pinkie's skull. Okay, now here comes the Slender Pony. One of my favorite creepypastas, by the way, Slender Man. Too bad it wasn't in Silent Hill, because that would have been awesome. Leave me alone! The slender pony approached regardless. The static screeched at her as it drew closer. Pain shocked her body from one side to the other as blood seemed to splatter and cloud her vision, turning the world red. She fell to her knees, trying to grasp reality before the pain and sound became too much to bear. Oh, yeah. There was a hole in her body. She could feel the worms wriggling in it, crawling up into her torso. They were eating her alive. The pain clawed into her very soul, but yet death would not come. Her body lay there, unflinching as the insect had their way, feeling every wrinkle and slime of their bodies as they slid under her skin. Bones crushed in their teeth as blood dripped down her chin. The fresh taste of gooey flesh slid down her throat. Sharp teeth bore again into the side of an earth pony's neck as the pony's head fell from her body, giving her a good chunk of flesh to chew. The taste was revolting, but she craved it. She had to have it. She had to have more. Her teeth dug into the pony's skull, crushing the skull as the inner organs began to dribble into her mouth. She had to have more. This one would never be enough. The screams had died down for now, but that wouldn't last long. This kind of hurts my voice, by the way. Why? Why are you doing this? It was the pain and frantic cry of Rainbow Dash. Could see her tied down onto a table, wings already sawn off by her own hooves. Yes, here comes the cupcakes part. Oh, Rainbow Dash, every pony dies sometime. 'Cause every pony's gotta die sometime, yeah, yeah. But baby, don't cry, you had my heart. No, I'm not gonna sing a song. Are you crazy? By the way, if you want to know what that is, what's it called? I can't remember now. I'll probably get back to it, but it's by Avenged Sevenfold. Her voice betrayed her as she pulled out a scalpel. It's a simple concept, really. You just have to think. Did my life mean anything? Did I die with a purpose? Will my memory be left when I'm gone? All are important questions, you see. She walked towards Rainbow Dash. She could feel the murderous intent grasping at every fiber of her being. But Rainbow Dash hiccuped through the pain and tears. I wouldn't have died for a good purpose if you killed me, Rainbow sobbed. Sorry, I can't do sob. How could you do this to me? Oh, God. She raised her hoof and petted Rainbow Dash's face. Ooh, we're gonna get some rainbow pie now? She leaned in close to her. There was an attraction she could never describe as having felt before. Her breath was hot and her body betrayed her mind. Oh, Rainbow Dash, if you don't know the reason by now, you'll never understand. This is just how things have to be. She stepped back from her prisoner. Rainbow only looked confused, but would rectify that look. She gripped her scalpel and placed it at the base of Rainbow Dash's hip, and sliced down her leg. Pain overtook Rainbow's face and voice as she began her delicate slicing operation. After all, she had to prepare the ingredients to be just right. Yep, there's gonna be some cupcakes. Twilight stumbled back, her head kicked back instinctively, wanting to escape from the horrors inside of Pinky's mind. Twilight crashed into a bookcase, causing a cascade of books to fall onto her. She was breathing heavily, frantic and panicked. The spell had only taken a few seconds to complete, but the rush of all the dream memories flooded at her all at once. Those dreams were horrific and so real. She had felt everything in those dreams, even though dreams should not normally contain such vivid feelings. The monster that attacked her, the feeling of bugs crawling out throughout her skin and organs, the gagging taste of flesh in her throat, the torture the act she had committed. She wanted to vomit. Don't we all, Twilight? Don't we all? Twilight, came a scared, timid, almost hushed voice. Twilight snapped from her thoughts and looked at her pink friend. She was trembling with fear as tears streamed down her eyes. That was right. These were the dreams Pinky was having. The dreams that were terrifying her. The dreams that she had come to her for help with. Pinky, Twilight finally muttered, swallowing back her own emotions and stomach contents. I had no idea, she said, shakily getting to her feet and slowly walking back to her friend. She had to be strong right now. Twilight, Pinky stepped through her sobs. I'm so sorry. I'm so sorry you saw them. She closed her eyes, grasping for air through her sobs. Twilight quickly moved next to Pinky, taking her into an embrace to hold her tight. Pinky cried desperately into Twilight's shoulder. Twilight held her dear friend, making sure she knew she had all of her support. The images may have made her stomach twist, but her friend was more important than that. It's okay, Pinky, Twilight said once Pinky's sobs had started to calm down. I can see how much these dreams have been eating you. The Pinky in those dreams is not you, so we just have to figure out why you are having them, Twilight said, letting her friend know that she had, in fact, kept her promise. Yeah, actually she did. Damn it. You never break a pinky promise! Yeah, because if you break a pinky promise, cupcakes are gonna get made, and you're gonna be the prime ingredients. The Pinky in her arms was nothing like the Pinky that appeared in the dreams. Pinky slowly nodded her head in agreement, before finally being able to stop her tears and let go of Twilight. Twilight turned to her book and flipped a few pages. Page flip. Since we know it's not your diet, we need to determine if it's because of recent events or if it's something much deeper in your psyche. So let's start there. When did the dreams start happening? Oh my gosh, she's starting to sound like a psychologist. Do you really need therapy, Pinky? Yes, I do. Well, Pinky rubbed her face, trying to dry it some. The dream started about a few days after the Grand Galloping Gala, also known as the 3G. My God. And they've been happening about every night for the last 2 weeks. They didn't happen one night after I did change my diet, but then they just came back the next day. Piggy said, trying to recall how often she'd have them. Well, the gala was a pretty big incident. You certainly seemed fine at the donut shop, but what about after that? I know you said you had some business to attend before you headed back to Ponyville, so we didn't see you again, so we were heading to the chariot. Twilight wondered. Well, after I'd spent time with you guys, I went and met with my sister Octavia. Wait. What? Pinkie Pie is... Are they related? What? What the hell? I didn't know. What the fuck? Is this real or is this just something of the fic? I don't know. We'll find out. She was the one playing the solo on stage during the gala. She was the main reason I was able to get away with my music antics while there. I wanted to go thank her for helping me try to liven things up, Pinkie said, recalling the night. She was a little mad at me at first for the mess I'd caused, but she forgave me, and we ended up having a very fun chat about what we'd both been doing up since we'd left the farm. After a little while, it was time for me to go, so we promised we'd keep better in touch. Wow, that's interesting. Twilight pondered this. Do you think it was the meeting with your sister that started the dreams? Twilight asked curiously. Not sure if I'm pronouncing that right, but whatever. I wouldn't understand that if she did, Pinkie said, putting a hoof up to her chin in thought. thought. It's as though it's thought. We had fun that night. There wasn't anything that she said that was negative. Have you gotten a letter from her yet? I did get one, but it was just letting me know that she was going to be performing a concert in Philadelphia. I didn't want to say Philadelphia, but no, it's Philadelphia, you idiot. She said that her band was touring around, so that if I wanted to send her letters, I'd have to address them to her band, since the mail carriers know where they'll be. Pinky said, tilting her head in thought. Ah, there, it's spelled correctly. Again, there was nothing negative, though. Well, what about the last 2 weeks? You seemed mostly fine, other than a few instances where you weren't as chipper. Twilight said, remembering Pinkie Pie was a little less hyper than usual the last few days. She certainly could understand why now, though. I can imagine that. Whoops. No, nothing significant. I've been throwing parties because of the dreams, but it's just been life as usual in Ponyville, Pinkie said, shaking her head slowly. I see. Twilight went back to consulting her books, scanning the pages of the book, flipping through some more, looking for what would be the best to handle this. Here we are. It's another spell. This one is called the Mind Delve. Oh my god, this sounds like a freaking Yu-Gi-Oh! Or Pokemon attack or something. Its intention is to find the source of your problems. It'll let us find out why you're having these dreams, be it in a minor or a major reason, Twilight said confidently. So don't worry, Pinkie. I'm going to make sure you'll be all better in no time. She gave her friend a confident smile. Thank you, Twilight, Pinkie said, giving a soft smile back. I smell popcorn. Salt popcorn. Salt popcorn. I love that. I wish I had some, but yeah, I'm doing a reading, so it's not the best idea to go ahead and eat popcorn. Alright, the book says the spell can be a little disorientating at first, but that you'll get used to it. You ready? Twilight asked. Pinkie gave her a nod. Then here goes nothing, Twilight said, taking a deep breath as she concentrated once more, her horn flaring up with light. She lowered it towards Pinkie's forehead and gently touched her. Oh boy, I nearly yawned there. Pinkie's mind did a flip and felt like it fell into a hazy fog. Mind flip! She lost track of her surroundings, feeling like she was falling from a very far height. The world was spinning around her as she felt wind rushing past her. Her stomach was rolling inside of her as she was inside of this intense feeling. She wondered. Derp. I thought it was said an I instead of an N. Just how long she was going to feel that way when she finally felt the world stabilizing with a thud that knocked the wind out of her. She gasped for breath, coughing a bit before feeling the sensation of the ground beneath her. She lifted her head up and shook it lightly before slowly opening her eyes, and my cable is stuck. I was sitting on it. My chair was parked on it. She was still in the library, that was for sure, but Twilight was missing. Why would she have left her alone in the library? Twilight? She called out, but the only thing that came back was a hollow echo. Oh, so it's Twilight? Twilight? This was bizarre. The library seemed eerily quiet, even more so than usual when Twilight wasn't around. She looked onto the table. It says onto table, noticing 2 things on it, a bag and a note. She carefully read the words on the note. You must cross the darkness to see the light. Whoa, we're going crazy quotes here. Pinkie looked at the piece of paper a little confused. Did Twilight write this? If she did, what did it mean? Was she supposed to take this bag with her? Twilight must know what she's doing after all. She wouldn't just abandon her here without a good reason. Pinkie opened the bag, looking to see if there was anything inside of it. There were 2 things inside. The first one was obviously what it was. It was a lantern. Inside was oil with a wick. That's old-fashioned. We're going amnesia up in this bitch. There was a knob on the side. She assumed it would turn the lantern on. If she was going to use it, she'd have to make sure not to use up all the oil. Then just find some more oil then. She gently placed the lantern back into the bag. What's this? She asked as she pulled out a rectangular device. It had a dial on it and an antenna, but it wasn't an object she was familiar with. It had a face like a picture on it. What? Whatever. With a circle on it that had holes. In her mind, it kind of looked like a miniature phonograph, but how would this tiny thing play music? Well, that's simple. It just does. We can create things that are like 1 centimeter by 1 centimeter that plays music. In her hoof, it began to spring to life, playing a soft, static sound. Pinky dropped it, surprised by the sudden sound. She stared at it as it buzzed. The sound seemed like a bunch of bees being mixed through a DJ table. DJ Pony up on this bitch. She poked the device with her hooves. After a few moments, the buzzing stopped. Pinky looked confused, but had the gut instinct that it must be something important. She placed it in the bag. I guess Twilight believed I needed this bag. I'll keep to her advice then, Pinky muttered to herself as she carefully strapped the bag to her back. Oh, I hate those sentences. Bag to her back. She then looked around. The library seemed to hold no more clues for the moment, so she decided to step outside. She felt more comfortable now that she had visited Twilight, so maybe she could go visit Rainbow Dash now. Yeah, that's gonna be difficult. I'm sorry. Burp. Huh? Pinky said, stopping short of a few feet out of the door. A thick fog had fallen all around Ponyville. It was so thick she couldn't even see anything more than a few feet in front of her. She started to shiver as a wind blew by. The temperature had fallen a significant amount. Ooh, it's going all cold up in this bitch. Seems like we need puts on sunglasses. A winter wrap up. Oh god. What's going on? I've never seen this kind of weather in Ponyville before, Pinky asked, confused. Did Rainbow Dash do this? Why would she? Pinky knew she had to find Rainbow and talk to her now. She quickly began to run off toward Rainbow's house. I keep thinking they reference me because my friends always call me Rainbow instead of the Rainbow Brony. That's kind of obvious. She was in full gallop when she suddenly realized she had to come to a full stop. She skidded along the ground and stopped along an edge, a few pebbles getting kicked loose and falling in front of her. Ah. I like to call it the void, but I don't get it. I don't care. There was a gigantic chasm that had never been Ponyville right before her. It cut right down the road to Rainbow's house. In fact, it cut off the entire way outside of Ponyville if it didn't have wings. Oh, yawn. What's going on? She asked as she stared into what seemed to be a bottomless pit. It is, believe me. When I was watching the movie, I was like, throw a rock in it, see if it lands somewhere. But no, they gotta be, stare down it and go on. Chapter 2! Alright, and what's my recording time? 38 minutes and 40 seconds. Holy crap. This is gonna take quite a while, so... How many chapters are there? I'm not even... I think I'm nearly on a quarter now. There it is, Pinkie Pie said as she pulled out a map of Ponyville. Wait. How did she get that? It was... She'd gone back to the library to find it. She had an uncanny ability to find the things she needed very quickly. She took a red marker in her mouth and drew a circle with an X through it at the road with a chasm on it. She then placed a smaller X on several houses she tried to gain access in. She tried to gain access to and trying to find any pony. The town appeared to be empty, abandoned. Okay. That's a nice skip in time you have there. Whoops. Jesus. What happened here? She looked at herself. She asked herself looking at the map of X's. She'd only investigated a small portion of Ponyville, but there were always ponies either at home or wandering around. On bad weather days, they'd be in their homes, or there'd at least be a notice of some kind of if a lot of the ponies would be leaving. Plus, why was there the bottomless pit at the edge of town? I don't know. There just is. No explanation. I need to get to Sugar Cube Corner. If I can make it there, I can get my hot air balloon and try and see if there's any Pegasi in the sky. They might have an explanation for the fog. Yeah, but never mind. Pinkie Pie started confirming her plan of action in her head. She also admitted to being worried about Gummy. She hoped he was alright. No, he's not. Spoiler alert. She quickly checked her route on the map before packing the map and the pen into her bag. She marked any more unusual occurrences she encountered in Ponyville on the map for her to remember. She stepped back out into the chilly day when something cold and wet landed on the end of her nose. Huh? Pinkie said, trying to see the end of her nose. She shook her head a little bit, then looked up into the sky. Small specks of snow began to appear as they slowly fell to the ground. It's not supposed to be snow, but ashes, I believe. Because underneath Silent Hill is a giant coal fire going on. Still. Okay. Snow? But it's summer. Well, Pinkie, it's raining over here in my cozy European land of Holland. It is raining all day long. It is very cold, and it's not funny to be outside. It's not fun to be outside. So stop complaining. Honestly, it's not fun to be outside. Pinkie sat in shock, staring at the white spectacle. She could see her breath, but she yawn. Damn it. It was cold enough. She could see her breath, but she hadn't realized it was cold enough for snow out. The Pegasi controlled the weather, so they must be up there right now. Pinkie headed out in a gallop towards Sugar Cube Corner. SCC. Suddenly, Pinkie heard a static sound coming from her bag. Was that miniature phonograph making noise again? It certainly picked random times to do so. Pinkie was knocked out of her thoughts when she saw the outline of a figure in the fog. Ooh, it's gonna get creepy here. Ooh, some ponies here, she said, her hope rising. She quickly ran faster to the figure. As she got closer, though, she couldn't help but get the strong feeling that something wasn't right as the phonograph grew louder. Hey, what's going on here? She instantly asked before even assessing who it was. She stopped shortly, though, when she got a good look at the pony and let out a high-pitched scream. Alright, now I'm going to do something that will hurt my voice. The pony was barely a pony anymore. Its coat and mane was gone, its flesh rotting on its very bones. One of its front legs was missing. There was a missing chunk of flesh from its back. Its eyes looked like they'd been gouged out. Several teeth looked like they'd been knocked out and were bleeding. Its body was covered in lacerations. Are you alright? Pinkie said, taking a step back from the pony. Her initial reaction was to figure out if it was in pain, but her gut told her to stay away, that this thing didn't want to help her. The phonograph in her back started screeching loudly. Well, if something looks like that, I don't think it would be alive anymore, so if it looks like it has been in a bomb accident, if it got blown up by a bomb and is still coming at you, I'd say run the fuck away, because that thing is going to try to kill you. Again, another thing that's going to hurt my voice like hell. Oh my god, I can't even do it. The fleshly mass lunged at Pinky, its teeth bearing the strike down. Pinky cried out and jumped away as the creature fell where she was standing, its teeth sinking into the dirt. Pinky took a few more steps away from the creature as it brought its head back up, bringing a mouthful of dirt with it. Ew. It growled as the dirt dribbled out of its mouth, soaking the dirt with its blood. Ew. It began to slowly lumber towards Pinky again, growling as if it seemed to smell her out. Nice. It can smell. Stay back. Stay back! Pinky cried out, trying to backpedal away from the terrifying creature. It growled and moaned, dripping a trail of blood as it was intent on attacking her. The creature terrified Pinky. It looked like it was on the verge of death, yet it wouldn't die. Instead, it was intent on attacking her. Every fiber of her being told her to run away. Run as fast and as far as you can from this creature. Stay away from me! She cried before her legs finally took action and ran around the creature quickly galloping away. The creature wanted to lunge again, its teeth implanting on the dirt once more as Pinky ran past. As she got farther and farther away, the phonograph in her bag began to settle down before going silent once more. Time to switch hands. Ha ha ha, very funny. Yeah, I know. She collapsed into a sitting position as she breathed heavily. Her heart was beating heavily in her throat. What was that thing? Why had it attacked her? Why did it look like a pony? Why has she not seen any pony else but that thing? I need to get to Sugar Cube Corner. Oh wait. I need to get to Sugar Cube Corner. Pinky panted, trying to calm her nerves. She bit down on her arm, pinching herself to remind that she wasn't dreaming. Oh, yes you are. She was in control of herself. She could run away from what she saw. This was not a dream. I believe it was. It is. She shook her head and got back to her hooves and began to run again. The building of Sugar Cube Corner quickly came into view before it. It wasn't a far walk from Twilight's house, but it had felt like it had taken longer than normal. With a soft sigh, or sigh, I don't know, she walked over to the front door, intent on going in and up to her room. The door just gave a disappointing click, telling her it was locked. You're not getting in. Why is it locked? Pinky frowned as she looked around. She didn't have the key to the front door, and she had to get up to her room. Oh, believe me, you don't want to. She thought about the situation for a moment before looking up and seeing the balcony that opened from the upper story of her room. On it were Pegasus doors she could open if she could climb up. She looked at the corners of the building carefully, walking in a slow stride around the building. As she came to the back of the building, she saw something that surprised her. A ladder was set up that reached to her balcony. Thankful for the good fortune, she quickly climbed up. Well, that is just fortunate. There just happens to be a ladder that can reach up to your balcony. Seems legit. The Pegasus door creaked open as she pushed it, revealing her room in Sugar Cube Corner. The inside of her room was pitch black. She couldn't see anything past the frame of her door. She carefully dug into her bag and pulled out the lantern, holding it into her mouth as she turned the knob. The wick came to life, the flame shining. She stepped down the stairwell into her room, the light of the lantern illuminating what she couldn't see before. She looked in shock at the state of her room. It looked like they hadn't been used for years. The wallpaper was rotting and peeling. The wooden floor was splintering and falling apart. The curtains were riddled with holes, dust was thick, and the air was stagnant. Pinky looked around, confused, before placing the lamp down gently onto a table so she could see the whole room. The stairwell that led to Sugarcube Corner was filled with debris and junk blocking the stairwell. Of course. Was I gone for a long time? Pinky asked as she stepped through the room, hearing the floor creak and groan as it adjusted to her weight. Twilight wouldn't have used the spell to send me into the future if she was going to help me. Would she? Pinky said, not sure what to think. The spell did say it would be disorientating. I guess this could just be all part of that side effect. The phonograph began to let off a soft static. Pinky stopped in her tracks as she listened to it. The last time it went off, she met that creature, and it had gotten louder as she got closer to it. She looked around the room hastily, but didn't see anything that looked like a monster. Calm down, Pinkie Pie. There's nothing too serious to worry about. Let's just check and see if Gummy's here. Grab the balloon and head for the sky. You can put this creepiness behind you then. Giggle at the ghosty, which is... Oh wait, spoiler alert, which is eventually the... You know what, I'm not even going to spoil it. Pinky says she grabbed the lantern in her teeth and quickly pushed her bathroom door open. Ah, now it's going to get fun. Now it's going to get great fun. And it seems I'm at about a quarter of the story. This is going to take quite a while. You might want to sit down. Gummy? She called out despite the lantern in her teeth. Oh, wait. I got to do this correctly. Let me see. Do I have a pen around here? Maybe in my pocket? Ah. Here I got a pen. Alright. Gummy? Oh, crazy me. She looked into the bathroom and nearly dropped the lantern. Now it's about to get gory. The walls were smeared with blood, bloody hoofprints and hastily scribbled words. The curtains were torn to shreds, their remains barely hanging onto the post that used to hold them. Caked blood covered the outside of the tub. The whole room looked like a massacre. Sweet Apple Massacre, anyone? Gummy, are you in here? Her words were muffled, but she had to check. She had to look. Her mind screamed, "Leave!" But she had to find out if he was in here or not. She took steps into the bathroom, her hopes echoing loudly as she stepped onto the tile. The only relief she was given was that the phonograph grew quieter as she stepped in further. She placed the lantern down on the sink and gulped as best as she could. The room stank of mold and blood. It made her want to gag. She carefully checked around the tub and the curtains, only seeing more blood. She turned to look at the walls, getting a chance to read what was written in the hastily scribbled blood. "Help me. Pain. He hungers." The words sent chills down her back. Don't you mean your spine? What did they mean, he hungers? The words echoed in her head. Was that referring to Gummy? But Gummy had no teeth. The only thing he could swallow was the mushy gator food she bought for him. What had happened in her bathroom? Why would this have happened here? Her mind was reeling with questions. She desperately needed the comfort of one of her friends now. She stepped away from the wall. There was only one place left she had to check, and that was the tub itself. She very carefully leaned her head over the edge of the tub, looking down into it. In the tub lay half of the rotted remains of a tiny green alligator. Pinky threw her hooves over her mouth as the tears began to stream out of her eyes. Aww. It was unmistakable. That was Gummy. He looked like he had been there for a long time. It's been a long time. GLaDOS much? Portal 2. Pinky's stomach was moving into her throat as she stared. Why was this happening? Was the question bouncing around her head again and again and again and again and again. She needed answers. It was that she noticed a bright red ribbon. It was tied immaculately into a bow. Not sure how to pronounce that. Around something that was sticking out of Gummy's mouth. Ooh, the I Dare You challenge. Oh, yeah. Pinky swallowed as she stared at the item, not sure what it meant. The item was clean, it was free of blood, and it looked like Gummy was trying to give it to her. Pinky Gin I don't think I'm pronouncing this correct, but gingerly, I don't know, lowered her hoof and took the item. Oh, damn it. And took the item from Gummy's mouth, the item slipping out with a bit of ease. She was able to look at it clearly now, realizing that it was a key. The key had a symbol of a star on it. She didn't quite know what it meant, but Gummy had given it to her in his last days. No, in his days after his last days. She had to keep it. She gently placed the key into her bag, remembering just that the phonograph was still giving off a quiet buzz. She carefully grabbed her lantern and stepped out of the bathroom, closing the door behind her. She placed the lantern down onto the ground as she wiped her face again, hiccuping. Gummy, I'm so sorry, she grinded into her hoof as she desperately tried to calm down. I promise, I'll give you the proper burial you deserve one day. No, you don't. She held back another sob. Please forgive me for not being there for you, she said as her shoulders shook. Her attempts at calming down were failing. The tears were pouring out stronger now. She just wanted to sit there and cry. Scroll down again. Her mind snapped aware that when she heard the buzzing grew louder, turning into the high-pitched ringing. Oh boy. Turning into the high-pitched ringing. Whatever was setting it off was getting closer. That meant she didn't have the time she needed to sit there and cry her heart out. She had to move on, or the fate that befell Gummy was going to befall her as well. Okay, it says 2 in the story, whatever. She hastily grabbed the lantern and ran across her room to the closet where she kept the balloon. The ringing grew louder. Her heart was beating rapidly. She grabbed the closet doors and ripped them open. A high-pitched scream erupted as a white blur latched onto Pinky's face. Pinky whirled her head around frantically as pain struck her all at once. She scrambled her hooves and rammed her head against the wall, erupting another screech from the blur. She whirled her head and flung it across the room. Pinky breathed heavily as she felt blood trickling down the side of her face. She turned to look at her attacker, her eyes opening in shock. I don't know. Writhing on the floor was what looked like the upper half of a hairless young filly, its white skin beginning to rot on its bone. Sweetie Belle, what the hell are you doing? Its 2 front hooves grasping for land as it flailed onto its back, its eyes covered by a white bandana as its black mouth opened, a long tongue flickering out as it lets out its wailing cry. The screech of the thing struck her ears harder than the loud ringing of her phonograph. Pinkie Pie was speechless upon seeing this creature. That thing resembled a filly, her stomach did flip. A full-grown pony was one thing, but this? The creature found its way right side up. Its wailing screeches quieted down as it seemed to be tasting the air, its tongue flicking about. Piggy winced as she tried to take a step back, only to find a wall there. The creature's head snapped to look straight at Pinkie Pie. It let out another wail as with shocking speed it began to crawl straight at her. In a blind rush, she quickly jumped to the side, the creature slamming its head straight into the wall. It let out a wailing cry as it flailed its head in pain. Pinky's heart pounded in her throat as she watched the creature. Its wailing cry made it sound so pitiful. It had left a sizable blood stain on the wall, and its head was bleeding profusely. It flailed its head back and forth. Pinky wanted to reach out and help it. She wanted to stop its pain and let it know everything was alright. If you really want to help it, just help him out of his misery and start stomping on his face. The creature let out a blood-curdling scream and rushed at her again, its mouth clamping down hard on her leg. Pinky cried out as she flailed her leg, trying to get the creature off, but it held on with a tight grip. She began to run around, trying to shake the creature, but its grip seemed to get tighter. She couldn't hear anything beyond her screams and the beating of her heart. She stopped next to a wall and slammed the creature hard against the wall. The creature was still there. She slammed it hard again. She slammed it again and again and again and again and again. Warm blood splattered against the wall and onto her coat. She summoned all of her strength and slammed it against the wall. The creature slid off as life escaped its body, collapsing onto the floor with a thud. Pinky's breath filled her lungs with fire as her body shook with adrenaline. She looked down at her bleeding leg and then at the creature she just finished off. I just have to do it. Fatality. Pinkie Pie wins. Oh no, wait. Pinkie Pie wins. Fatality. Mortal Kombat. Awesome. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Oh no. Pinky said in a shaker breath as she stepped backwards from the creature. She hadn't meant to kill it. Had it even deserved death? Well, seeing as it's the top half of a filly, which has already started to rot, I say yes, it deserved death. It had attacked her, but was it the right thing to do? She sat on the ground, panting, her body shaking, her mind reeling. She looked down at her body and saw the soft splatter of its blood against her coat. Her stomach flipped and flipped and flipped and flipped and again and again and again and again. Her contents about to come up. What have I done? She gasped, trying to cool her burning lungs. Why did it have to come to this? She shook her head violently. She didn't want any of this, but it was happening. This was no dream that she could wake up from and it all go away. This was here and it was real. She took a deep breath as she tried to stand on her shaking legs. Rainbow Dash, Rarity, Fluttershy, Applejack, Twilight, any pony, I need you right now, she said, shakily walking towards her closet. She grabbed the lantern and looked into the darkness. The balloon was there, the basket holding the deflated balloon. Hope rose in her heart as she placed the lantern down and began to pull out the clothes from the basket. Uh-oh. Large holes riddled the balloon. It wasn't usable for flight. Pinky broke out in sobbing tears, crying into the hole-ridden cloth. Chapter 3, and we're not even halfway. Holy crap. And we're at 1 hour recording time. Damn, this is gonna be possibly the longest fanfic I have ever read. The longest one I know is Fallout Equestria, which I will probably not do a reading of, or maybe. Maybe I will. Pinkie Pie tenderly finished cleaning and wrapping her wounds. Her leg still throbbed from the bite wound, but at least now it would start to heal properly. She tested her weight on it. There was a small bit of pain, but nothing she couldn't handle. She could keep moving. She could run away if she had to. She looked at the note she had placed on her bed once more. It had been resting at the bottom of the balloon's basket as if it had been waiting for her to find it. Laughter and smiles of youth, together as they find out truth. Dreams of the future are held as fears of the past are expelled. Ooh. She had been dwelling on this note since she'd found it. She knew it was a riddle. She wasn't very good with riddles. But her mind had finally calmed down enough now to start thinking more coherently. Her brain had finally stopped reeling from horror long enough to take deciphering these words seriously. Well, I guess the first line means false, finding truth? Like learning? That word sparked it for her. Oh, this riddle was about a school, she said, rereading the riddle in context of the school, and all the lines fit. So, does that mean I should head for the school? She asked herself. Yeah, you probably do. She looked around at the dilapidated room. The balloon that was torn apart, the body of half a filly. No reason to stay here, she said as she packed the note into her bag before grabbing the lantern and heading outside. She shivered as she hit the cold, snowy air once more. She hadn't realized how warm it was being inside of the building. But yeah, that's what happens when you leave the frickin' thing. When you leave a frickin' heater on. She turned the lantern off and placed it back in her bag. She then began her gallop towards the school. Cheerily! She watched carefully from behind a tree as the lumbering form of the monster paced away from the entrance of the school. It looked just like the first monster she had encountered, the three-legged groaner. If there's more than one of those things, maybe groaner is a good thing to call them, she thought to herself. Groaner. She worried that the buzzing of her phonograph might give her position away, but the groaner didn't seem to notice any sounds unless she made them. It soon began to lumber away into the fog, turning into a dark silhouette of itself. She figured now was the perfect time to move. She quickly made it to the front door of the school and pulled on the handle, trying to get inside quickly. The door jammed from the sound of it being locked. It's locked too? Oh, wait. Whoops. She had bewildered. She hadn't expected it to be locked, not after that riddle had told her to come to the school. Did I get the answer wrong? She asked herself as she looked at the door again. It was then she noticed just above the handle was the lock, with the symbol of a star on it. It felt like a switch was flipped on in her head. She quickly reached into her bag and pulled out the key Gummy had left for her, being careful not to undo the ribbon. Yeah, 'cause I guess it must be hard for ponies to place ribbons on stuff. 'Cause you can't hold it, and tying a knot must be pretty difficult. She placed the key into the keyhole. It fitting perfectly. The door unlocked with a satisfying click that made her smile softly. She went to grab the key to hold on to it again. The key turned into ash, the tiny pieces quickly falling to the ground. She stared in shock at the gift Gummy had given her. The only part that hadn't turned to ash was the ribbon that floated down gently, landing onto her outstretched hoof. This is like the thing with frickin' Philomena, or whatever it's called. It's not a griffin. Princess Celestia's pet. I don't know. I'm derping here. No, Gummy's gifts, she said, her lips quivering as tears threatened to fall once more. She shook her head quickly, taking a deep breath of cold air as she calmed herself again. She'd already cried a lot. If she kept crying, she wasn't going to get out of this situation anytime soon. Besides, she still had the ribbon from the key. Yeah, Pinky, you need to man up. I mean, grow up. Is that possible? She very carefully tied the bow to the end of her mane. I'm sorry, I'm derping here. It still didn't have its frizz to it, but tying it at the end helped make her feel it was a little poofy again. The ribbon gave her comfort. She felt as if Gummy was right beside her when wearing it, while wearing it. She opened the school door and headed inside. To her surprise, the area was fairly well lit. She had been expecting to need her lantern, like at her house. The school seemed to have fared better than her house did. It had a thick layer of dust, but the structure wasn't nearly in as much disrepair. Lockers lined the walls. The hallway led to classrooms. Signs hung up on the wall pointing out the the direction of the cafeteria, nurse's office, principal's office, and the classrooms. Huh? Pinky's ear twitched upon hearing a sound. It's burp. It sounded like the laughter of young foals. She turned her head in the direction of the sound, simply amazed at the sight. She could see the ghostly appearances, I guess. It says apparitions. I don't know. Appearances, I'll just say that. Of two young foals playing in the hallway. They laughed and pranced around each other before running down the hallway in the direction of a classroom. Pinky watched as they faded through the door to the classroom. She quickly turned her head to her bag and listened for the static of her phonograph. But it was silent. Well, maybe those ghosts aren't monsters like the others, she said quietly to herself. Perhaps if they weren't monsters, they were a sign. Can't I set this to like another color? It's getting kind of difficult for me to look at the freaking white. It's starting to hurt my eyes. Perhaps if they weren't monsters, they were a sign. She quickly followed after the foals, opening the door to the classroom. The classroom was as quiet as the halls of the school, stagnant air mixed with a layer of dust. But the room gave Pinky a sense of nostalgia. It was the classroom she had gone to when she had moved to Ponyville. Memories began to flood her mind. Well, Miss Pinkhamina Diane Pye, we recognize that you have been homeschooled for most of your life, but... my voice. Homeschooled for most of your life, but on testing you on the Ponyville standardized test, your score was not high enough to acknowledge a graduate-level pony, so we are requiring you to take at least 1 year of public school here in Ponyville, the mayor explained to her. What? I have to go to school? Pinky said, pouting in her seat opposite the mayor's desk. But learning was so boring. She stomped her hooves a little in the chair. Now, sis, Octavia said, reaching over and placing a hoof onto her sister's shoulder. It won't be that bad. Just think of all the new friends you'll be able to make. You'll have a lot more ponies to invite to your parties, she said comfortingly. But, Pinky said, looking at her sister with pleading eyes. She already knew that she wanted to spread smiles as much and as far as she could, but this was her first time finding other ponies to be friends with to host a party for. She was rather intimidated by the thought that they wouldn't like her parties. Tell you what, Octavia said with a comforting smile. If it's all right with the Major, I'll go to school with you. How does that sound? I don't see why not, the Major said, nodding with a smile. Really? Oh my gosh, you're the best big sister ever, Pinky said, hugging her dear sister, a big smile on her face. Octavia smiled in return as she petted her young filly sister. Right, you know what? I'm gonna see if I have some drink here because my voice starts to hurt. Let me see. There's a... Oh, wait. I have something here. It's a Coca-Cola bottle filled with some water. I'm not sure if I should drink it, though, because it's actually pretty old. Let's see if I can unscrew the cap with one hand. Come on. Alright, I'm gonna put the mic down for a sec. Be right back. Alright, it smells like water, but not sure if I should. If I get sick, I'll know the reason. Not bad, actually. Has a bit of a cola taste to it. No, that's probably because I forgot to wash it when I poured the water in. That's kind of a nasty aftertaste. But I should probably throw this water away. Just pour it down the sink. Guessing it'll do. Alright, where were we? Oh yeah, at the young filly sister thingy. Pinky smiled at the warm memory. It was one she hadn't thought about in a long time. It's been a long time. When Pinky had decided to leave the farm, Octavia was the one who had been the one willing to help her adjust to life outside of it. Her parents seemed to understand and stayed behind to let their kids experience the world. Octavia had been the biggest help to her while they were at school. She gave her the confidence boost to meet the new ponies, and she made so many friends. She was also the reason she met Mr. and Mrs. Cake and ended up staying with them. It was after that year of school that Octavia decided to leave on her own adventures, having discovered her love of the cello and classical music. Aw, why no dubstep? Pinky had been sad to see her sister go, but understood that she had to go live her own life. Besides, she'd left her in the care of some very wonderful friends. Friends are important, I can tell. Yeah, this water's probably way too old. I don't care. Well, that's pretty sad, your relatives go. And, I actually moved quite a few times, actually, like 4 times. I can't remember any of them, though. This is like my fifth time moving. And, I lost a lot of friends. Yeah. And, seeing relatives come and go. Like, so did my grandmother, who is unfortunately up in heaven right now. Yeah. Let's just continue. These are all bad memories. Well, good actually, but also bad. I don't. Ugh. Pinky walked down the rows of desks with a soft but warm smile on her face. It's getting positive. No. The room certainly gave her plenty of happy memories to remember. She stopped before her old desk in remembrance, but noticed a piece of paper lying on top of it. That's good that you can visit your old school building. Unfortunately, mine was knocked down the year after I went to high school. We were the last, I'll say, generation to graduate from, I don't know what you call it, basic school or something, and move on to high school. We were the last ones, and then the building got knocked down. They destroyed it, which is really too bad. I wish I could have visited my old class again, my old classroom. What's the Alright, but now back to the story. It's getting way too personal. What's this? She asked before taking a quick breath and blowing the dust off of the paper. Sitting on her desk was a little fool's drawing. On it was the picture of a family smiling on a rock farm. Ah, yeah. She gently placed a hoof against it. It was one of her old drawings. She smiled as she remembered the fondness she had for doodling during class. She could see their old house in the background, her mother and father standing behind their kids in the foreground. She smiled at the cute scribbling of her and Octavia. Wait, she said, suddenly realizing something. She took her hoof away from the picture and stared at it. Something was wrong with this picture. She couldn't put her hoof on it, though. It's my family. What would give me the impression something's wrong? She stared at the happy family of 4. It's Mom, Dad, Pink Pie, and Octavia. Yeah. He couldn't find a strong urge that there was something wrong with the picture, but no matter how she racked her brain, nothing seemed to come to mind. She scrutinized the picture carefully. I'm guessing that's looking through it carefully. Ah, that water tastes horrible. I'm too lazy to go downstairs and get some, so. There's a hair in it. Oh no, wait, that's my own hair. Derp. I'm sure if Octavia was here, she would know what the problem was. Pinky shook her head softly. She was always the smartest of us. She always was the smartest of us. Even if we were in trouble, she would always bail us out. Her words stopped dead. I loved your last party, Pinkamena. I was just wondering when you'd throw another. Her eyes shot back to the paper as she scanned it and counted the number of people in her family once more. 1, 2. Wait, whoa. Typo. The number of people. That should be the number of ponies. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. She counted out loud as she pointed to an empty spot that should have contained her other sister. Where's Bellamina? Where's my younger sister? She scoured the picture for any sign of her. She wouldn't have drawn a picture of her family without her, would she? Wait, come to think of it, when was the last time I thought about Bellamina? She asked herself quietly. She remembered thinking about Octavia several times over the years, but she never thought about Bellamina. Oh my gosh, I must be the worst sister in the world, she said, feeling so rotten for having forgotten about her other sister. Wow, you forgot about your sister, you bastard. Nah, I'm just kidding. You'll forget about people, like some of my friends that moved away. I can't even remember their names. There were like 3 of them. She tried to recall memories of her sister desperately, but the only thing that came to mind was the story of how she got a cutie mark. But beyond that, she shook her head furiously, trying to jog loose any memory, but she didn't remember anything else. She looked down somberly before slamming a hoof against the desk. Burp. I'm so sorry, Bellamina. I promise you, once I get out of here, I'll keep you in my thoughts, Pinky said, determined now. She had to escape the horrors that had befallen Ponyville. She looked around the classroom, her eyes being drawn to the desk next to hers, the one Octavia had sat in during school. On the desk was a red circle with an X through it, written with a red marker. Wait a second. She made one of those things on the... Uh-oh. That isn't that a sign of the Slender Pony? She carefully grabbed the edge of the desk and opened the top of it, looking inside. Inside of the desk was a blue jewel carved into the shape of a cello. Wow. It's beautiful, Pinky gasped, examining the item. She wasn't sure what it was doing there, but she had the strong feeling that it was something she was meant to keep. She picked it up carefully before placing it gently into her bag. She closed Octavia's desk before realizing she should check her desk as well. She was careful not to disturb the picture and opened hers as well. Inside was a red jewel in the shape of a balloon. She quickly placed it inside of her bag as well. Wait, aren't those the cutie marks? I'm not sure. She closed the... Damn it, I scrolled to another... She closed the desk and looked around. None of the other desks appeared to have anything of significance on them. She headed to the front of the class and checked the teacher's desk. There was a note written on the desk. At the eve of the switch, from night to morning, the red moon will shine. Another riddle? Pinky asked out loud to no one. This one certainly made less sense than the last riddle she tried to solve. Off the top of her head, she couldn't figure out what this riddle was trying to tell her. Well, I wouldn't either. And I'm not that good at riddles as well. One thing I noticed, in this story, she talks to herself a lot. This is kind of weird. Actually, I shouldn't be saying that because I do it a lot. Mostly to practice my commentary skills and that I can keep rambling a lot. Just give random commentary and stuff. She twirled her head towards the door when she heard the laughter of the foals coming from the hallway once more. She quickly exited the room and looked around the hallway for them. She saw them further down, playing with each other. She slowly approached them, trying to get a better look at the 2 little foals. However, once she got close enough, they began to run down the hallway. She gave chase. The little foals didn't run too far. They quickly made a turn into another room. Pinky stopped in front of the door and read janitor's closet on the front. She heard a click, blah blah blah. She heard a click come from the door as if it had just been unlocked. She reached the handle and opened it, walking into the closet. She's going in the closet. Pinky, when are you coming out the closet? Ba-doom. The room didn't look anything like a janitor's closet should. Rather than shelves with items for cleaning, it was mostly a mostly empty room. At the end opposite the door stood a small knee-high pedestal. Then behind it was what looked like a door with a clock and symbols around it, in between two portraits of the princesses. Ooh, is that lantern oil? Yes! She asked as she walked to the small pedestal, noticing a small bottle of yellow liquid. She sniffed it real quick to confirm what it was before picking it up and placing it in her bag. Good, that should keep me stocked for a while. Well, Pinky, you're gonna have to find more. She then walked forward to take a closer look at the door. To the left of the door was a picture of Princess Luna, graciously drawn with her body in a circle, surrounding a small hole in the wall. Princess Celestia was drawn much the same way, also surrounding a small hole in the wall. Wait, this hole, I know this shape, she said, having noticed something about the hole Celestia was surrounding. She quickly reached into her bag and pulled out the red balloon jewel and fit it gently into the hole. It snapped into place with a satisfying click. Ooh, puzzle solving. And what time are we at? 1 hour, 26 minutes, and 32 seconds. Holy crap. Then that means the other jewel must go here, she said, placing the blue cello underneath Luna's picture. When the second jewel clicked into place, the clock moved forward out of the door a little, followed by the symbols placed in a circle around it. She looked carefully at the symbols. There were 6 pictures, 3 of suns, 1 red, 1 yellow, 1 blue, and 3 moons, 1 white, 1 green, and 1 red. Wait, a clock and a moon. Oh, I get it. The words from the teacher's desk came to mind. The E for the switch from night to morning. Night is PM, morning is AM. They switch at 12, and the red moon will glow at that time. She placed her hand. Whoa! Hoof! She placed her hoof against the dial of symbols and turned it, placing the red moon so that it was directly above the number 12 on the clock. She moved the 2 hands of the clock to point at the number as well. The clock chimed 12 times and the dial moved back into the door before the door moved and rose into the ceiling, opening the path. Pinky quickly walked into the next room. Huh? Pinky's ear twitched once more. Twitches. Something's gonna fall. On your head, motherfucker. She heard a very quiet sound in the distance, like it was a sound coming from Ponyville itself. She recognized it as a siren. Oh, a siren was blaring somewhere. She wasn't sure what it meant, but she had the gut instinct it didn't mean anything good. She focused on the room before her. She regretted it instantly. Oh, now it's about to get good. The room itself gave out the stench of it rotting. The ceiling was brown with missing tiles. The walls were a mess of peeling, rotted walls, and the floor was covered in dirt, mold, and grime holes littered the room, revealing a mesh of iron grating behind them, apparently the foundation holding the room together. 2 dead ponies hung from the corners of the room, their bodies wrapped in some kind of clothes, but their blood splattered the wall and floors next to them. They hung by chains and metal that kept them suspended. On the wall between them was a single word written in their blood. Run! She didn't need to be told twice as she ran out of the room. She ran out of the janitor's closet and back into the hallway. Wait, what happened to the light? She asked as the hallway she entered was pitch black. Ah, yeah, I see what's happening here. She quickly reached into her bag and pulled out the lantern. Ow. The flame came to life, illuminating the hallway. She gasped as the hallway was no longer that of the calm and quiet school. School. But instead was made out of the same dilapidated materials as the room she just escaped. Everything was rotting, held together by a metal grating. The grime covered the floors and splotches and blood caked the walls. Hanging bodies of ponies were visible at various intervals down the hall. The smell of so much rotting gagged Pinky. If not for the lantern in her mouth, she would have lost her stomach. The sound of static hit her ear next. Her heart started pounding as she next heard footsteps echoing down the hall. She turned to the direction of footsteps, listening to the hiss of static growing louder as the footsteps grew closer. Her brain was screaming at her to run, listen to the wail, and put every bit of power into her hooves. But she seemed stuck, almost glued to the spot. This feeling wasn't like the other monsters. This sensation was piercing down right into her soul. This feeling was biting into her and was forcing her feet to stay. The edge of the light hit the creature. It walked further into the edge of the light, and she felt her heart stop for just a brief moment. It was one of the monsters of her nightmare. It was a tall, slender pony that towered over to her. It had no face. Its skin clung to its face and body as if they were attached directly to its bones. It was pale, deathly pale, accentuated by the black suit and red tie it wore on its torso. It continued to take slow, careful steps toward her. Every hoof step echoed in her brain like it was trying to grate her mind. The phonograph erupted into its loud-pitched ringing as she felt the pain strike her mind. She finally felt herself no longer glued to the spot, and with everything she could muster, she turned around and ran. Her heart jumped to her throat, almost choking her with its pounding as her hoofs connected loudly with every single step she took. She didn't care about the grime or the body she passed. She had to get away. Her mind grated with the feeling of a haste that the creature seemed to bring with its presence. The loud ringing of the phonograph seemed to be the only thing that kept her in any state of mind to run as fast as she could. She rounded a corner with lightning speed. She was putting everything into this. She knew she could run fast. She could keep up with, if not outrun Rainbow Dash at times. She had to be losing the slender pony. She had to be escaping. She dared to look over her shoulder. No, don't look around, you idiot. It was keeping up with her. It seemed to be only walking. Somehow the slow-paced center it strutted kept up, and its whole being seemed to slide towards her as if there was no escaping. Look forward. Her mind reeled, and she whipped her head forward, trying to go faster. She had to turn another corner. Her hoof caught under one of her legs, and she nearly fell. She scrambled her legs and took off again. Once again, a blood-curdling scream bellowed out before her as she saw half of a white filly start to crawl straight for her. She jumped over it, its tongue passing over one of her hoofs as it tried to bite her. The screams of the filly were cut short as she heard the sound of it being crushed by the monster chasing her. Her stomach, comrade. Her stomach hit her hard inside of her throat as her lungs burned. Her mind was kicking back and the haze was growing. I can't escape, I can't escape, I can't escape, I can't escape. The words yelled and flung themselves to the very corners of her mind. She felt it. She was about to die. This monster was about to kill her, and there was nothing she could do about it. Her eyes flung open as she saw at the end of the hallway an open door. Random drinking pause for the win, and this stuff still tastes horrible. An exit? Her mind screamed as she continued to book it. She raced as fast as she could, trying to ignore the constant looming presence of the threat behind her. She had to get to that door. She was almost there. Just a little closer, just a little closer. She was going to make it. She jumped, passing straight through the open door and skidded to a halt inside of the room. Her heart instantly sank as she looked around. The room was a square with one entrance and no exit. She had jumped straight into a dead end with that monster behind her. Good job, Pinky. Good job. You're dead. Nah, she's not. Spoiler alert. She looked around frantically. The room was adorned with party decorations, multicolored streamers, balloons caked with blood, vile-looking snacks, poorly wrapped and rotting gifts, hanging ponies at each corner, a seal of blood drawn out on the floor. She instantly turned around, watching as the slender pony gradually walked into the room. The only opening to the room sealed shut with an iron gate behind it. Of course. There was no escaping now. She was trapped in the same room with this monster. She dropped the lantern from her mouth, not able to hold it onto as she panted frantically. The lantern rolled to the center of the room, turning itself upright in the center of the blood-drawn seal. The seal lit up with a red glow, filling the whole room with light. She could see the red-hued slender pony as it walked towards her. Oh God, now she's going to assault him. Stay back, she yelled as she ran to the gifts. She began grabbing them one by one and throwing them at the ponies. At the pony. Pony! Pony! The gifts struck the pony and seemed to stun him for a moment. As the gifts hit him, they fell to the ground and burst into a pile of ash. They slowed his walk down for a moment, but with each consecutive strike, he was less affected. She grabbed the last gift and tossed it in with all her might, straight at his head. It struck him before blowing up into a pile of ash. Pinky cried out in pain as she felt her forehead was splitting open as her vision hastened to oblivion. To oblivion! She stomped her hooves down and ran blindly in a direction away from the pony. Her vision returned as she felt blood trickling down between her eyes, dripping off of her nose. He'd opened up a fresh wound on her head. She grabbed the table, holding the vile snacks on top of it, and tossed it to the ground, raising her hind legs up and kicked the table straight at the slender pony. The whole table struck him and pushed him back. He hit the wall, as the table seemed to hold him in place for a moment. Pinky panted as she stared at the creature. He got up, he pushed the table gently, and the table fell apart as a pile of ash. Pinky's legs gave way under her as she fell to her knees. Tears fell from her eyes as she sobbed in pain and exhaustion. She couldn't fight this monster. It was too much. Her mind reeled and wanted to accept her death. Her body couldn't take it. Her mind couldn't take it. She felt her mind begin to hurt worse. The slender pony was drawing closer. She couldn't look at him. She sobbed with her eyes closed, just wanting the horror to end once and for all. The pain stopped. The hoofsteps of the pony had stopped getting closer. The ringing of the phonographs was dying down. Pinky dared to open her eyes and looked up. He was still there, but he had stopped his assault on her. He looked like he was looking away from her at something she couldn't see. That's when she heard it. The siren. The siren was going off again in the distance. The slender pony put up one of its lifted hooves to the ground and turned to look at Pinky. She braced for whatever it was going to do, but he just stood there. Then slowly he lowered his head into his suit and pulled out a small brown box. He placed it on the ground before turning around and walking away from her. Okay, that's interesting. The light in the room dimmed until it was pitch black. Light from her lantern began to bring a gentle glow to the room. Pinky hiccuped, taking in a huge breath of air that cooled her burning lungs once again. She could just feel her heart still racing as she began to get her bearings. The room wasn't the one she had just been in. It looked like a normal basement. It had pipes and fixtures that controlled the water and heating throughout the building. Her lantern lay on its side in the middle of the room, glowing with its gentle flame. The brown box was still where the slender pony had left it. Words failed Pinky. She didn't have the strength to get up up at the moment. She lowered her head and let herself sob again. Alright, so this is going to be one video, but I'm just gonna take a break because it's getting a bit long for me. I'm starting to get tired, so I'll see you in well, for you it'll be a second. For me it will probably be like a day or so. So to me to the future. Alright guys, here I am again. Took quite a while. I started recording on I believe it was a Sunday, and it's now Wednesday, so after a lot of, I don't know how you call that, but procrastination or something. Here's the second part. Well, this is the second part of the entire story. So we started off at I can't speak. Yeah, we were at chapter 4. I'm not sure what the last chapter is, but I think we're about halfway now. I also refreshed my water bottle because that water was just disgusting. And now that my voice starts hurting again, let's see if we can... Damn it. Let's try. There we go. Oh, crap. I'm squeezing it between my legs. It's not the smartest thing to do. Oh, God. Don't drop that. That's going to leave big stains in the carpet. That's a lot better. Holy crap. Alright, so, yeah. Let's go. The world was quiet. Her hair floated around her face. She didn't feel the sting of her wounds here. Everything felt the same like this. It seemed almost as if her cares were a mile away. The last of her oxygen left her mouth and flew past her face. Her lungs began to burn. She wanted to hold it, but She wanted to hold it for a little longer, but her body did not divide her. Pinky gasped, taking in a huge breath of air as she surfaced from the bucket of water. She panted heavily as she tried to relax and calm her beating heart. She had just survived staring death in its face. That thing, that monster, that slender pony. She knew just getting close to it was a death wish. When it had gotten close to her, her mind had fallen into a haze, unlike anything she'd ever experienced before. Then there was the head-splitting pain. She touched her re-wrapped head wounds. The cuts from the attack in her room had started to heal, but the slender pony had left a deep gash down the middle of her forehead, but she'd survive. The cut only stung a little now, and that would fade soon. The bandages on her leg had also needed to be changed. All that running had reopened the bite wound, and her leg was currently throbbing as it recovered. She shook her head in pain, casting the water off of her head. Ooh, we got some sexy shaking going on. That soak had relaxed her some, but she was still inside of that school. The school where she had been chased inside of that... The only word that came to her mind that could describe it was as an other world, one that was separate, yet almost the same. She lowered her head and started gulping down the bucket of water. She hadn't realized how thirsty she was at first, but she remembered how much crying and running she'd been doing, and suddenly her throat felt dry as a desert. She very quickly emptied the buckets of its contents. Wow, she drinks a whole bucket of water? Holy crap. That's a lot of water. It just depends on how big the bucket is, but if you can stick your head in it, that's a pretty damn big bucket. Damn, Pinky Pie, you're thirsty. Not sure if she'd call Pinkie Pie or Pinkamena. Her tongue lapped at the bottom expectantly, but there was no more water to be had. She slowly sighed, or sighed, I don't know, as she pulled her head back up and looked around at the empty cafeteria she was in. She was able to imagine back when it was in pristine condition, all the little fools that would gather around, eating lunch as they took a break from their day of learning. Friends would share gossip stories, adventures in the games they were playing at home. Some would doodle, some would spend time by themselves. But lunchtime and recess were always the fools' favorite part of school. I can't speak. But that's really true. Lunchtime and recess are like the best times of school. I can just relax and fuck around with some friends. No, I don't mean fuck my friends. Shut up, I'm not gay. Not that I have anything against homosexuals. I don't care what you are, if you're homosexual or straight or lesbian, I don't care. Why am I talking about this? What the hell? Those days are long gone this place, aren't they? Pinky said as she stared at the empty, dust-covered room. The tables had been empty and abandoned for a long time now, and no foals visited these halls. Even the brief glimpse at the playful ghost foals had gone away and left the empty silence. She took a soft breath and picked up the red ribbon she had taken off to soak her head. She gently tied it into a bow at the end of her mane once more. She was growing very fond of this ribbon, not only being a gift from Gummy. It seemed to give her a sense of normalcy. Normalcy? Is that a word? Okay. During these calm moments, where she just had time to herself. It seemed to put her mind at a bit of ease, just knowing it was there. I guess, she said, taking a deep breath and turning her head. All that's left to do now is open this box. Oh yeah, the brown box. She said, looking at the brown box that sat next to the bucket. She hadn't looked inside of it. In fact, she wanted to leave it there. Even more, she wanted to smash it. She wanted to destroy this box. Anything that Slender Pony had to offer just made her stomach twist in anger. But forces beyond her understanding compelled her to bring it with her. She put it down to get some water, and now that she had finished it, it sat there mocking her. Maybe I can smash it after I find out what's inside, she reasoned with herself, giving herself enough confidence to finally open it. She carefully lifted open the brown lid, half expecting it to burst into fire upon her touching her. The lid slid off easily as she looked inside it. It's a bomb, get out of there. Nah. That wouldn't be fun for the story. Why is this here? She said as she stared in shock at what sat inside the box. It was the key to Sugar Cube Corner. Why would he have this? Why would he give it to me? The questions racked Pinky's mind, but no answers came. She had just come from that area after all her home was read about Sugar Cube Corner. Pinky felt sick at the idea that the Slender Pony had been in Sugar Cube Corner. Perhaps that explained what had become of her room, why the store was locked. If he had the key, then perhaps that explained what she had seen in the bathroom, and even that little white filly that attacked her. Her stomach did another flip as she felt her anger rise again. She carefully picked up the key and placed it in her bag. She had to go back and find out what had happened to the rest of Sugar Cube Corner now. What the hell? I think my little brother's singing. She then carefully replaced the lid on the brown box before picking it up and dropping it on the ground. She lifted her good leg and smashed the box under her hoof. It let off a satisfying crunch as she crushed it. The snow had started to pile up thickly at her hooves. The town looked like it had a white blanket covering it. Every part of the town had snow on it. The streets, the roof, and the trees. Pinky had never seen the town covered in the snow this way before. There had always been ponies that made sure the town was still usable during the winter, clearing the streets and making sure the snow didn't pile up too thickly. Each step gave a crunch in the snow as the cold ground sank underneath her. She shivered even more, wishing she had brought some winter clothes to keep warm. Normally she did well in the cold, but the snow kept wetting her coat. She could feel ice starting to form at the base of her legs. That's bad. Sugar Cube Corner finally came into view. She sighed in relief. She had seen groaners in the distant fog, but none had come close to her. She had managed to make sure it here only suffering from the cold. She went up to the door of her favorite bakery and gently tried to open it. The door was still locked, as expected. She carefully pulled the key to the store out of her bag and placed it in the lock. The door unlocking. Pinky watched as the key turned to ash, just as the just as the school key had done before it. She just let out a soft sig as she pushed open the door, stepping inside. As she expected, Sugar Cube Corner was dark, just like her room had been. A scant amount of light entered the room as she looked around. She quickly reached into her bag, pulling out the lantern. She was thankful she had refilled it with the oil back at the cafeteria as she set the flame alight. To her surprise, Sugar Cube Corner looked fine. There were no pastries on the shelves or counters, but there was a lack of dust and decay. The place was even decorated. There were ribbons and banners and balloons set up all around the shop. There was a table set up for holding snacks and punch. Several games placed in various locations, as well as a pile of presents on another table. There was a banner tied from one pole to the other above that read, "Welcome, Pinkie Pie." "Are these decorations for me?" Pinkie asked, placing her lantern down on a table so it could illuminate the room. "Ooh, do we have a guest? I love guests," came a voice that sounded all too familiar. Pinkie stopped as she looked around. She hadn't heard any pony's voice since she'd entered this horrible place, and she was suddenly filled with hope. "Yes, you do have a guest. It's me, Pinkie Pie." Pinkie quickly called out excitedly, wanting to meet the other pony right now. "Where are you? Come out. I promise I'm not like those monsters outside." "Oh, really?" the voice chuckled. "It's just so hard to tell these days who is and isn't," the voice said cheerfully. "Please, will you come out? I'd really like to see your face," Pinkie said. She didn't care that the voice seemed to sound familiar. She just wanted to see the pony. "Okie dokie Loki, since you asked so nicely." Wow. A blob of darkness in the corner of the room began to move. It seemed to manifest in the form of a pony before Pinkie's eyes. The shadows surrounding the pony faded as light soon gave her a form. Pinkie gasped in shock, covering her mouth with a hoof. "What's the matter? You seem surprised to see me. You said your name was Pinkie Pie, right?" "What a coincidence. My name is Pinkie Pie, too." There was no doubt about it. The bright pink coat, the frizzled-up curly mane and tail, the blue and yellow balloons for a cutie mark, the bouncing, bubbly attitude, it was Pinkie Pie. "But that's going to get confusing if we both start calling each other Pinkie Pie," she explained as she stopped bouncing for a moment, thinking about, "We should give you a nickname." What? But I'm... Pinkie couldn't think of anything to say. Why was there two of her? And this Pinkie didn't seem to be suffering at all from any sadness or despair. She wasn't covered in any bandages and she didn't look hurt. This Pinkie looked exactly like she did before the nightmares had started to affect her. Ooh, I see your hair's down. Does that mean you're sad? You must be. The only time my hair goes down is when I'm sad. We can call you Sadie Pie. The happy version of Pinkie bounced again. Why are you sad, Sadie Pie? Did someone... That should be some pony. Did someone steal your sweets? You can always make more, you know. She giggled merrily. Oh, I know what'll turn that frown upside down. Let's have some cupcakes. Cupcakes? Pinkie asked a little hesitantly. But I want to get out of this town. Oh boy, cupcakes. Yeah, that was like one of the first fanfics I read. I see what's gonna happen. "Aw, you want to go?" Happy Pinkie said, tilting her head. "But you only just got here. Come on, there's so much fun for us to have." She bounced over to a door on the side of Sugar Cube Corner, one that led to the basement. She opened the door, then turned back around. "Come on and follow me. We'll have lots of fun. Then we'll make those cupcakes." The happy Pinkie Pie bounced into the darkness of the stairs, disappearing from sight. Pinkie just stared in disbelief as the second Pinkie disappeared from sight. She couldn't believe her own eyes. Surely she was the only Pinkie Pie, right? She had to find out why there was a second Pinkie Pie. She got the lantern and slowly began to follow down the stairs to the basement. She could hear the constant giggling of herself far down in the darkness. For some reason, she might have preferred the silence. She hit the bottom of the stairs and looked up, expecting to see the basement. Instead, there was a long hallway before her, with a series of 4 wooden doors, along with a final wooden door at the end. Come on, let's play already," the chipper voice echoed throughout the hallway. Pinkie couldn't tell which direction it had come from. She slowly walked up to the first door and opened it, entering slowly. Inside the room, she got a shock as she saw the familiar look of the living room from the farm. "Here, you should eat something," The ghostly image of her father had placed a bowl of soup before a ghostly image of her younger self wrapped up in a blanket. I'm not hungry, her younger self had softly muttered in response. She bundled herself up tighter in the blanket. You haven't eaten anything since you got back. Please, you have to eat, her father sat down on the couch next to his daughter. I don't want to eat again, young Pinky said, her voice quivering with fear. Her father placed his head around his shaken daughter, holding her closer to his body. The image faded away. The room was quiet as Pinky stared at the images she had just seen. Was that a memory? She asked herself. It wasn't a memory she could remember. The words her father had spoken felt ominous, but she couldn't think of why he would seem that way. She saw something out of the corner of her eyes, looking down on the table where the soup had been placed. On top of it was a green tile with the image of a cat on it. She wasn't sure what it meant, but she felt it was something important. She made sure to quickly grab it and place it inside her bag. The roof's cracking. And I believe it's about to rain. Cool. She then exited the room, closing the door behind her. You do want to have fun, don't you? Came the cheerful voice that echoed through the hallway once again. Pinky ignored it for the moment, opening the door across from the first one. Inside the door she saw an interrogation room, one she would have seen at the local authorities when she was little. Can't you see she's been through a lot? The ghostly image of her mother told a ghostly police cold as she hugged her pink daughter. Your questions are upsetting her. The pink filly was shaken in her mother's arms. I apologize profusely. We're not trying to scare, but we need to know what happened, the cold said, reassuring. You need to give my daughter time, her father said adamantly. This has been a tough time for us all. We understand, and you have our condolences? I don't know. But we need to know the details. Once we do, we can bring this whole affair to an end quickly, the cult returned. The image faded from the room once more, leaving behind a pink tile on the interrogation table. It was another scene that didn't exist in their memories. This one confused her more than the last one, not knowing what reason she would have to be in an interrogation room like that. She examined the tile, seeing that it had a picture of a bird on it. She quickly placed it inside of her bag before exiting this room as well. Ooh, you're going to make me wait, aren't you? The chipper Pinkie Pie voice echoed in the hallway, sounding disappointed. Pinkie simply shook her head. The voice of that other Pinkie was unsettling to her. Hearing herself talk without it being heard just felt unnatural. Well, that's true. When I listen to myself reading stuff, like my readings, or I hear myself talk, I'm like, do I really sound like that? Come on. But yeah. Where were we? She carefully walked to the next door, opening it and stepping inside. This time she saw a bedroom from the farm. 3 beds filled the room, one for each of them, as their parents had slept in a different room. Come on, sis. You need to get some sleep. It's getting late. The ghostly image of her older sister Octavia was trying to comfort the young pink filly. They were sleeping in the same bed as their sister hugged her tightly. I know you're having a hard time, but I'm here. I won't let anything happen to you. The young pink filly began to sob into Octavia's coat. The two of them embraced as the images faded once more. On the bed sat a rat tile with a picture of a snake on it. Pinkie wiped away a tear that had begun to form at the edge of her eye. She didn't know why these emotions were welling up inside of her. The images were too real not to be true, but why couldn't she remember them? We'll find out, I guess. She carefully placed the red tile in her bag before exiting the room. Come on, I prepared a party for you and everything. She still sounded happy, but like she was getting impatient. Pinkie shook her head softly. She had to see what was in this other door now. That other Pinkie could wait. She opened the final door on the sides of the hallway, stepping into a room that had its walls painted like the sky. The ground was covered in sand and rocks. It looked like the outside of the rock farm. So, you're sure this is what you want? Her ghostly father asked once again. Yeah, it is. I don't think I should stay here anymore, her younger self responded slowly. I understand, her mother commented, standing next to her father. Just please be careful out there. I know you'll have Octavia with you. Are you sure you guys don't want to come? I don't know if I'll be coming back either, Octavia said, looking from her younger sister to her parents. I was left this farm by my father. I can't just leave it now. Their father shook his head slowly. This farm is my whole life now, good and bad memories alike. So I hope you can forgive us for not coming with you. Just please be safe. This story's getting emotional. Nah, just kidding. Don't worry, father. I'll guarantee that nothing shall happen, Octavia smiled. We trust you, Octavia, her mother nodded, tears in her eyes. The images faded away. A blue tile with a fish on it sat in the middle of the room. That was when we left the farm, wasn't it? Pinkie thought, remembering having left the farm with her parents' approval, but she hadn't remembered that conversation before they had left. Yet she was sure it happened. All these images were experiences she'd had when she was younger. Yet she had forgotten them. Burp. Why would I have forgotten these memories? She asked herself as she walked over to the blue tile before placing it in her bag. There must be a good reason for why I have forgotten. Maybe the other Pinkie Pie knows, she thought to herself as she exited the room. What's on the blue tile? Did I read it or no? We'll find out, I guess. The other Pinkie Pie voice huffed softly. You're not very fun, Sadie Pie. If I was told I was being thrown a party, I would have just go straight to it. The voice sounded like a patient was wearing thin. Pinkie walked down the rest of the length of the hallway, reaching the door at the end of it. She pushed open the door open, walking inside. Oh, there you are. I was afraid you'd gotten lost somehow, which would be weird. How do you get lost in a straight hallway? I mean, I'm sure there's a way, but you sure have delayed the party. The other Pinkie stood in the middle of the room, illuminated by a lantern that hung from the ceiling. The rest of the room was pitch black, except for the circle of light that showed where she was. Pinkie carefully turned off her lantern before storing it back in her bag, and then turning to face herself. Tell me, you know what those images were about, don't you? She asked as seriously as she could. The other Pinkie frowned. What? You made me wait for that? That's not very nice, she said, giving a huff. But I'll forgive you. After all, now that you're here, we can have fun together, she bounced happily. Okay, there we go again. I'm sorry, I'm just derping a bit. Please, I want to have as much fun as you do, but I can't enjoy myself until I find some answers. Pinkie shook her head. What happened to Ponyville? Why are there monsters? Why am I seeing the images I'm seeing? I want nothing more than to go back to throwing parties and hanging out with my friends. She lowered her head a little. But I can't. Not as long as these questions are eating me up inside. The other Pinkie stopped bouncing around and just seemed to frown. Fine, I see how it is. The other Pinkie turned around. I guess I'll just have to remove that sadness from you, Sadie Pie. Pinkie blinked in confusion. She had no idea what the other Pinkie meant, but she hadn't answered any of her burning questions. Oh boy. Her thoughts were stopped as her heart sunk. Her ears could hear the siren going off. Oh boy. The light in the room was dimming, turning it pitch black slowly. Oh no. Oh no 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 no. She thought, beginning to panic as the light faded completely. She tried to brace herself for anything. The world was changing. She could feel it, shifting under her hooves. As the siren began to die out, the lantern began to flicker back to life, re-illuminating the spot the other Pinkie was standing. The ground around them had turned into the rotting, grime-covered floor that had appeared the first time she had heard the siren. The other Pinkie Pie was still standing where she had been. The only difference now was that she was wearing a strange dress with wings. As the other Pinkie turned around, the phonograph began to come to life with static. You know, the other Pinkie spoke up, playing with myself really might be the most fun I'll ever have. She left out a soft chuckle, turning around. turning around fully to give Pinkie Pie a full view of her outfit. I'll have to make it last, but all things come to an end. Pinkie stared at the outfit, beginning to notice details as she wished she hadn't. The wings on their back, 6 in total, were each a different color and were crudely stitched on. Around her neck was a necklace with multiple unicorn horns dangling from it. The clothes her dress was made out of looked like a patchwork quilt made of leather. Each square of the dress had a different kitty mark on it. "Oh, do you like my dress?" The other Pinkie noticed her gaping stare. The other Pinkie angled her body to show it off better. "I'm so glad you like it. I worked very hard to make it. It wasn't easy getting everything to be so intact. Ponies really like the scream, you know." Okay. She laughed as she gently played with one of her wings. "I'm quite proud of how it came out, too. But I must admit, I see something. I can add to it that would make it even better." Oh boy. The lantern grew brighter, illuminating more of the room, revealing a table that had been hiding in the darkness. The other Pinkie turned around and walked towards the table, reaching into a medicinal bag that was placed on the table. From the bag, she pulled out a large, sharp butcher's knife. Oh boy. Okay. Now, be a good pony and hold still, will you? I don't want to mess up that beautiful cutie mark of yours," the other Pinkie said as if it was a natural thing. Before putting the butcher's knife in her mouth, the phonograph began to let out its wailing rings. Pinkie's heart felt like it had stopped. She couldn't even comprehend everything that this other Pinkie was saying. But it was very clear that the other Pinkie wasn't going to give her a chance as the other Pinkie began to charge full gallop at her. The other Pinkie appeared to be aiming for her legs. She jumped out of the way as the knife came close to cutting deep into her. She tried to back up away from the other Pinkie, into the darkness where she hit something hard. She looked behind her as if following her eyes, the lantern hanging from the ceiling glowed brighter, revealing the entire room from her. She had run into the dried remains of a pony hanging from the ceiling by a butcher's hook. She jumped away, not wanting to even touch it, as her eyes quickly began to see the decorations of the room. She felt her stomach reach her throat. Again. Ponies' bodies hung from several parts of the room. Their bodies dried and caked pools of blood lay underneath them. Skulls decorated the walls, while the furniture was made up of bones and skin. Balloons floated that were dyed with blood. Streamers and ribbons that had been given the same treatment. Piles of body parts and organs lay stacked in the corners of the room. On the table with a medicinal bag appearing from the darkness that had hid it before was a plate adorned with whirlpool skulls on it, with a pile of cupcakes in the center of the plate. Her ears twitched as she heard the galloping of hoofs and jumped into the air. The sound of a blade being swung and striking the body she had run into. Pinkie ran away from the twisted version of herself, panting heavily as she galloped to the other side of the room. She turned around, watching as the other her pulled the knife out of the body. "Sadie Pie, this isn't any fun if you just keep running," the other Pinkie said cheerfully, pulling the knife out of the body. "I admire you, though. You have the will to fight. I like that in a pony." She chuckled happily as she placed the knife back in her mouth. "That's twisted." The other Pinkie said everything in that same happy voice. It terrified her, thinking that such thing could be said with such a happy tone. That Pinkie had every intention of killing her, and not quickly. It was obvious she wanted to make it a slow, painful process. The other Pinkie was charging again. She could dodge it from a distance, though. She jumped out of the way, avoiding Pinkie. "Gah!" she cried out as a stinging pain sailed across her right leg. Pinkie stumbled away. She looked at the other Pinkie, who was giggling, blood dripping from the end of the butcher's knife. The other Pinkie had tilted her head and changed her direction when she had dodged. The knife had cut deeply into Pinkie's leg. She could feel the blood trickling down her leg. Ow? With a playful hoof stomp, the other Pinkie broke into another charge straight for her. Pinkie mustered all of her strength to jump away. Gah! Pinky let out another painful cry as a gash cut down on her back leg, causing her to trip and collapse on the ground. Her leg twitched in pain as the gash reached diagonally down half her leg. She was severely bleeding now. The other Pinky was able to maneuver too well for her to dodge. The attacks had all but immobilized her movement now. I give you an A for the effort, but a C for the execution. That gives you a good round B. The other Pinky cheered happily for her. I do hope you won't completely give up once you lose your legs, though. I know, it'll be tough, but keep on fighting. The twisted words sounded so cheerful. It sickened Pinky. Yeah, like, I love Grimdark, but this is not right. If I could actually hear Pinkie Pie's, the original voice actor of Pinkie Pie, say that, oh my god, I will be creeped the fuck out. Delicious fresh water this time. Pinky turned her head to watch, Pinky turned her head to watch the other Pinky put the knife back in her mouth. She had come up to her from behind and raising her head now. She was going to bring the knife down, bringing it down right into her leg. Without a moment's despair, Pinky pulled her back leg in as the other Pinky began to throw her head down with every intent to chop her leg off, before bucking her leg with every ounce of strength she could muster into the other Pinky's jaw. Ooh. A loud crack sounded from the room as Pinky felt the body of the other Pinky fly backwards away from her. Front flip. But that was a back flip. I don't care. PewDiePie. She heard a loud thud, followed by the clanging of the knife hitting the hard ground. She panted in pain, trying not to focus too much on her bleeding legs. She turned her head weakly to look into in the direction the other Pinky had flown. Where are we at now? 31 minutes already. Oh my god, this is going to be one of my longest readings ever. Damn, this is like 2 hours already. Jesus. And there's Pinky had flown. The other Pinky groaned, having landed on her back. Ouch. That hurts. Really, I landed on my back once while I was training in self-defense. Somebody threw me over, a girl actually. Oh, I got thrown down by a girl. I don't care. Like this girl, she threw me over her shoulder, but something went wrong and I landed on my back and I rolled over twice. Son of a bitch, that hurts. Chilly. She rolled over, lying on the ground as her head wobbled. Her mouth was bleeding severely. She coughed and hacked, bits of teeth and chunks of blood flying out. Ooh. She panted as best as she could through the blood oozing out of her mouth, turning to look at the Pinky she had attacked. Blah, blah, blah. Blah, blah. The other Pinky tried to speak, but she had just sputtered out what sounded like nonsense. She looked in pain as she tried to speak, but she slowly got to her wobbly hooves. Pinky slowly got to her hooves as well. Putting weight on her injured legs made her body cry in pain for relief. But she did her best to silence her cries. I think it's, I'll finish you. The other Pinky sputtered out more blood as she gripped the butcher's knife as best as she could with her hoof, dragging it along the ground as she began to walk towards Pinky. How can you grab something with your hoof? I don't get it. How do you do that? I don't... Meh. Pinky took in sharp breaths of air as she concentrated on the vile pink mare before her. The other Pinky began to pick up the pace before going into a full-on run straight for Pinky. She seemed groggy but determined to bring that knife down into Pinky's flesh. Pinky had aimed the uninjured half of her body at the other Pinky, bringing her hoof up once more. The butcher's knife was raised into the air, sparks flying as it had scrapped along the ground. The frenetic rush of the other Pinky was closing in, ready to strike down. For a moment, everything seemed to hold still. Right on the edge of death, two forces that never should have met collided. The butcher's knife flew through the air, impaling itself onto the ground. A loud crunching sound broke through the air. Pinky's hind leg had struck, landing with all his might straight into its victim's throat. The other Pinky's eyes were shrunk as her windpipe was crushed, her forward energy being matched by the stopping force of the kick. Her body betrayed itself and swung itself free on the ground, her whole being shifted out from under the power of the ground and of the kick and hitting the ground with a hard thud. That Pinky jerked and twitched on the ground as he tried desperately to get air from his broken windpipe, only to be filled with blood that poured freely from the neck. She jerked and squirmed as her eyes rolled into the back of her head. It seemed to last for an eternity, but the body finally stopped squirming as life escaped it. Congratulations, you have just made an inception. You've killed yourself. Congratulations. I'm not sure if that counts as an inception, though. I'm not sure. I don't drink much water, but when I do, I drink fresh water. Where are we? Oh, God. The only thing that could be heard was the loud panting of Pinkie Pie. Her phonograph had gone silent. She stared at the corpse that lay before her. She saw herself dead, killed by her own hoof. Damn, that's dark. Congratulations, you have just killed yourself. She seemed to be numb to the pain that was trying to course through her body, her mind beginning to fall into a haze from the amount of blood she was losing down her legs. It seemed insignificant at the moment, as all she could do was stare numbly at the lifeless body before her. Nothing else seemed to even exist in the world. However, her mind finally began to receive the signals her body was sending. She needed medical attention. Her legs became shaky as she finally began to take her first step. She limped, putting as little pressure on her injured legs as possible, over to the medical bag. She carefully pried it open, looking inside. There were many sharp instruments, scalpels, syringes, I believe, filled with a strange liquid, even a saw for cutting bones. Ew. Okay. However, she saw a roll of gauze bandages. She carefully grabbed it, pulling it out of the bag. She unrolled the length of it before carefully but tightly wrapping it around her wounds. She wrapped slowly, wrapping up the large cut on her hind leg, then the smaller cut on her front leg. The bandages quickly soaked with blood, but they would seal her wounds for the time being. She placed the remaining gauze inside of her bag and then turned towards the exit. She slowly limped her way back into the grimy hallway, walking past the steel doors. She carefully began to climb the stairs, her wounds slipping once or twice due to the grime that had grown all over them. The climb was slow, her body ached with pain and exhaustion, but she made it to the top. She slowly walked across the rotting sugar cube corner, heading straight to one of the grime-covered counters. Oh, floor, derp. In a dry spot on the counter sat a brown bottle. The label of it called it a health drink. Seems legit. Pinky's dulled mind pulled the cap off of it with her mouth before taking it and drinking the whole thing. The drink tasted like a mix of bitter herbs and strawberries for flavor. It was a lot like drinking medicine, but the body was grateful to have the liquid inside of her. She placed the empty bottle back down on the counter and slowly trudged to the middle of Sugar Cube Corner. She laid down, panting heavily, as the haze of her mind finally came to a stop as she went into an uncomfortable sleep. Holy crap, an entire empty page. And Chapter 5. We're nearly at 3/4, and we are currently at nearly 40 minutes. Not bad. Not bad at all. A groan escaped Pinky's lips. That had not been a restful sleep by any stretch of the imagination. She rubbed her throbbing head as she began to stand up. Her body was whacked with aches the moment she tried. She lay back down and took several deep breaths, her senses being hit with the overwhelming stench of decay. Blech. She pulled her head away from the ground, coughing as the stench tried to gag her. Her eyes shot open and she tried to look around. However, it was far too dark for her to be able to see something, or anything. She fumbled around in her backpack, reaching for a lantern before pulling it out and turning it on. The floor she sat on was a mess of rotting wood and grime. The normal, pristine floors of the Sugar Cube Corner had become one with the other world now. She lifted her head up to look around, seeing the walls and furniture were also rotting away. Bodies of ponies hung up from the corners of the room. Bad confectionaries were placed on various counters of the shop. Pinkie quickly turned her head away, closing her eyes from the images. She had seen so much of it already, yet it wasn't any easier to see any of this. She had wished that waking up would have made this whole place go away, as if it were just a bad dream. At least I wasn't attacked by a monster, she groaned as she began to stand up onto her wobbly feet. She looked down at the blood-soaked bandages that covered her legs. Images of herself attacking her assaulted her mind. As the events replayed for her, she remembered each cut, and of her own hoof ending the life of herself. A pang of guilt coursed through her. She hadn't wanted to kill herself, but in her state of self-defense, she hadn't been given any other option. If only this town hadn't warped everything, if only things went back to the things they always were. Wait. Oh. Wait, Pinkie said as a thought reached her mind. She looked around Sugar Cube Corner once more before looking down at her feet, viewing the grime-riddled floor. Sugar Cube Corner didn't look this way when I came in, she said aloud when she began to realize what was happening around her. Which means... Oh no, that sign didn't go off again. I'm still in this other world. Pinkie began to panic as the realization hit. No. Calm down, Pinkie. Pinkie said, sitting herself down, taking in deep breaths. If you panic, then nothing good will happen. She shook her head before gently tapping it with her hooves. Stay calm, and just think. Her heartbeat began to slow down as she managed to rationalize with herself. Okay. First things first, she said as she looked at her legs. I need to change these bandages. She reached into her bag and grabbed the bandages she'd put in from before. She quickly unwrapped her wounds, inspecting each of them to make sure they were healing properly before reapplying fresh bandages. She used up the last of her gauze, but felt satisfied with the fresh wrappings. It'd probably be better if I had some disinfectant, but I gotta work with what I have, she said softly. So, what? She asked herself as she reached into her backpack and pulled out her map. She unfurled it to try and see where she should go. She gasped in shock. The map was blank now. The entire map only consisted of one word. Nowhere. Nowhere? I'm not anywhere? She asked herself, confused. She pressed against the map, looking for any clue to what had happened to the old one. But there were no clues to be had. Letting out a defeated sig, she placed the map back in her bag. I didn't want to say back into her leg, but that's impossible. I guess I should get a look at my surroundings before I decide where to go next. She softly gulped down a bit of anxiety. She wasn't sure what to expect outside now that the siren hadn't turned the world back to normal. Alright, you've been through a lot already, Pinkie. You can handle this. She softly motivated herself as she gripped the lantern in her mouth, standing up. She headed for the door and solidly pushed it open, expecting a blast of cold air. Walking out of the store, she found that all of Ponyville had succumbed? I don't know. To the other world. The entire street was paved with a rotting floor, littered with holes that showed the metal framing that held it together above a dark, bottomless pit. The houses had mutated into decrepit, rust-colored shacks that were falling apart at the seams. The fog only illuminated part of the town, but was now black as the sky. The only light that penetrated the area was that which came from a lantern. She carefully looked around before stepping down from the front steps of the shop. She didn't have any idea of where she should head first. The other version of herself hadn't dropped any clues, and if she didn't want to go back and find it. She didn't want to go back to find it. Yeah, I guess I wouldn't. Suddenly, a loud thud hit her ears as the ground shook slightly. She looked at the ground as another shimmer passed through. A few pebbles shaking at her hooves. What the hell are pebbles? Pinky's heart began to race. She had no idea what this meant, but it couldn't be anything good. She looked around her, trying to find a source for the rumbling. Came the groan of a monster Pinky had become familiar with. She quickly turned her head into the direction. She quickly turned her head into the direction as her phonograph began to pick up sound with the sound of static. Slowly coming out of the darkness was a groaner, hobbling its way slowly towards her. There's no way he's the source, the thought ran through Pinky's head for a moment, when suddenly she was deafened by a loud roar that cut through the foggy air. The rumbling picked up its speed as if the source was now running. Pinky took a few steps away from the groaner, not sure what she should do. Oh my god, that hurts my voice. The groaner groaned as it tried to move faster. Pinky couldn't help but notice that it looked like the civil were trying to escape. But escape from what? The groaner let out a final cry of pain as from the darkness a massive mouth appeared, biting into the creature, taking the groaner in its jaws. It swiveled its head back up before chomping the groaner down in a single bite. Pinky stared in shock at the giant monster before her. Oh yeah, here's the big monster. Here's the big motherfucker. It was a single body, a large mouth at its front, with no eyes. Its skin was curved and pink, running straight back, large muscular legs that held its entire frame up. It was as if someone had taken off a pony's head and neck and put a giant mouth as its body. It stood as tall as a dragon. It let out another roar that knocked Pinky back to her senses. It had finished its meal, and it was looking for its next one. Oh yeah. Pinky turned on her heels and ran. The creature let out a roar as it began to chase. Every stomp of its legs shook the ground under her hooves. Her heart was pounding as she tried her best to run. She constantly felt her hooves about to slip from the shaking ground, and she panted like crazy, rushing air to her lungs. Blah, blah, blah. She felt and heard a massive thud behind her. She looked over her shoulder and saw the creature had tried to bite down on her, its head crashing into the floor. It quickly pulled its head back out, letting out a pained roar as it began running again. She watched it run, its loud thudding feet doing its best to keep up with her. However, it was slower than her, and she knew it. This thing wasn't nearly as fast as the last thing that chased her before. Coincidence built up inside of her, she turned to face the road ahead of her. She made a quick turn, noticing the path ended before her. She ran quickly, looking behind her as she saw the creature run straight into the buildings, letting out another pained roar. I can do this. I can outrun this thing, she thought to herself as she felt her confidence skyrocket. She didn't know what it was, but she could outrun it. She looked ahead of her and saw the running town pass her by with each hoofstep. But where do I outrun it? She asked herself, not sure of that answer. She heard it letting out another roar as the tremors under her legs began once again. It was coming after her again, but it didn't seem too bright. It was a thing to be feared. It could eat her if she wasn't careful, but she could get away from it. She quickly made the turn around another bend, increasing her distance from the creature. Her attention was caught by what she saw in the distance. It looked as if a giant gate of metal bars had been erected in the middle of the world, cutting off one half of the world from the other. As she ran towards it, she could tell it stretched up into the sky, but couldn't see where it ended. She looked behind her. The pink monster was slowly starting to catch up as it meshed its jaw and roared for her blood. She looked back at the gate, seeing a normal-sized door in it for her to fit through. She kicked herself into high gear and charged straight for the door. She slipped through with ease and quickly slammed it shut behind her. She stared through the metal bars at the creature running straight for the gate. She panted as she watched it crash with everything it had straight forward. It crashed loudly against the gate, letting out a wild roar as it came to an abrupt stop. The gate was strong enough to hold it back. It let out another roar as it stepped backwards, rushing it straight into the gate again. The bars bent slightly, but held strong. Pinky stood there amazed, watching the creature's fight with all its strength to break through the bars, roaring and hollering as it slammed its head repeatedly against the bar. A loud cracking sound echoed through the area as the creature stopped its thrashing. It let out grunts as it tried to figure out what the sound meant before it crashed its head once more against the gate. I don't think headbutting the gate will really help. The loud crack sounded again as the large creature found its hind leg through the door. Through the floor, not the door. It began to let out frantic roars as it thrashed around, trying to get its throat free. The ground below it cracked and gave way, the creature roaring as it clawed at the metal gate for support. A giant form soon fell through the ground, its loud roars disappearing into the dark sky as it fell into the bottomless pit. Pinky slowly walked towards the area he had crashed into the gate, peeking her head down towards the bottomless pit. The creature had fallen. It was nowhere to be seen or heard anymore. The ground it had stood on continued to crumble away, spread out towards the town. The whole town was slowly falling into the bottomless pit as well, as if the only place left in the whole town was this area standing behind the middle gate. Pinky stared at the crumbling town in shock that it truly was crumbling away, yet it almost made her a little happy. The place that caused her so much torment was slowly vanishing before her eyes. It had left her stranded there, but it was going away. She turned her back from the crumbling town to get a look at where she currently was before letting out another surprised gap. She hadn't noticed what was actually behind the gate as soon as she had been too focused on running. The dirt before her was littered with rocks of all sizes, spread as far as the eye could see. In the center of all the rocks was a wooden house, small but quaint, with a moderate windmill. It was the farm, the place she had lived and grown since when she was a foal. Dun dun dun! Shocker! The farm? It's not supposed to be this close to Ponyville, she thought as she began to run towards it. Its familiarity and comfort was calling for her. Well, Pinky, since you are in a world that is completely cut off from everything else, and there is, the entire town started crumbling away, I don't see how that's impossible. But yeah. The image of a ghost-like filly appeared before the front door as she ran closer to the house. The little filly ran forward, going through the door to the house. Pinky had to follow it. She quickly reached the front door, opening it and going inside. Inside, in the living room, was a ghostly image of her youngest sister. Bellamina stood there looking at her. "But Bellamina!" she called out, dropping the lantern from her mouth. It hit the ground with a clang, rolling over to the young ghost filly, who stopped it with her hoof. "I'm surprised you made it all the way here, Pinkamina," Bellamina set the lantern right side up. "I was worried that you wouldn't make it, but I'm glad you did." "Bellamina, you're... Pinky started, but stopped herself as she looked at her sister. "You're not really here, are you?" she said, her cheerfulness dipping as she could see through the ghostly image of her sister. "You'll see the truth here." Bellamina turned and pointed, directing Pinky to the stairs to the upper floor. "This house is your last safe haven, though. After this, there's no turning back," her younger sister said ominously. "What do you mean?" "Goodbye, sis." Bellamina's last word echoed as her image faded from the living room. Pinky could only stare at where her sister had stood, not sure what to make of what she saw. She felt a pang of sadness and yet a bit of comfort as well. It was short, it was brief, and it didn't last as long as she wished it could have, but she had talked with her sister. She walked over to the lantern and picked it up once more with her mouth. She couldn't stop here, not now. Her sister's last words gave her a boost of strength, a boost that she could use to see this, though. He looked at the stairs his sister had pointed to. They lead to the bedrooms on the second floor. The truth. I guess it's time to find out what that means, she thought of herself as she took the careful steps up to her destiny. I'm sitting on my cables. That's not smart. This cable's way too long. She goes, yeah. At the top of the stairs, she was met by a wooden door. She carefully pushed it open, revealing a hallway. On the sides of the hallway were 4 black square holes with writing below them. At the end of the hallway was another wooden door. She stepped into the hallway when suddenly the wooden door snapped closed behind it. She quickly looked at the door, trying the handle, only to find it locked. Dun dun dun! I just knew that was going to happen. Let's see. Oh, how long are we now? Oh, we're nearly at an hour. Holy crap. Well, that'll be about 2.5 hours. Jesus, and we still have a lot to go. So stay with me, guys. She let out a soft sig as she turned back to the hallway before almost jumping out of her skin again. Oh boy. This slender pony stood at the end of the hallway, right outside the door on the other side. Her heart started beating in her throat as she stepped back against the door that had locked closed behind her. However, the slender pony turned around and seen the face through the last door, as if telling her he was waiting for her on the other side. Okay. That's weird. She took a deep breath as she tried to calm her beating heart. The very sight of the creature was instilling fear into her. She shook her head as she calmed down. My sister said that the truth was here. I have to have faith in her. Pinky carefully got back on her hooves, stepping forward slowly. She said I was ready for it. I managed to come through this far through hell and back. I can handle this. She took a big breath as she turned to the first hole in the wall, reading the words written under it. Eyes gleamed over it, its stalks before striking, its tail wagged in anticipation. Pinky thought it over in her head. The square-shaped hole was just the right size for her to place in one of the tiles she had gotten from Shirikyu Corner. She assumed the riddle meant that she had to put one of them in the slot. She carefully looked inside of her bag and went over to the selection she had. A bird, a cat, a bird, a snake, a cat, and a fish. This riddle refers to the cat tile, doesn't it? She asked herself, thinking the clue over. She carefully grabbed the tile and placed it into the hole of the wall. The tile began to glow white, spreading out from the hole it was in. Pinky took a step back as she watched the plate spread out into an area the size of a door before her. The light soon faded away, revealing a door in its place. Ooh, we're gonna hear the story now. What the fuck happened? She carefully opened the door. Looking inside it was a single room, almost like a closet. 4 solid walls with no description to them, yet she felt compelled to go inside. She walked into the dark room, closing the door behind her. Suddenly, the flame on her lantern went out on its own. As she reached out to try and relight it, the room was filled with light. Projected on the walls were images. Pinky instantly recognized them as memories. Alright, this is the first one. I don't know, Pinkamena. Are you sure this is a good idea? Wilhelmina asked as she walked with her bouncing sister towards the edge of the rock farm. Of course it is, Pinky said happily as she led her younger sister. It's a super special party. I tried to invite Mother, Father, and Octavia, but they were all too busy. So that means you get to enjoy the fun with me. Ooh. Well, I do love your parties, Wilhelmina smiled. It was true that she did. The two of them reached the edge of the forest. We're here, Pinkamena called out happily. Who are you talking to? Wilhelmina asked confused. Why, the party host, of course, he giggled happily. Wilhelmina looked confused, but the confusion didn't last long. From the forest walked a tall colt. His coat was painted in dull gray. His mane was unkempt and was curled into a mess of brown. He didn't look like he had a good bath. He'd had a good bath in at least a week. And most odd of it all was that his cutie mark was that one of three dark red balloons. "Hello, Pinkamena. I see you brought a friend," the old colt said with a smile. His voice sent shivers down Billamina's back. Hmm. Wait. Oh, derp. See, here's the party host. He's going to throw a super duper wonderfully fantastic party. Pinky bounced over to his side and pointed at his kitty mark. And see, we both have similar kitty mark. Is cutie mark the... Alright. That means he's going to throw us the best party. Pinkamena was very excited. "Oh, of course. I always throw the best parties." They called that out a soft, deep chuckle. "Really?" Bellamina asked, a little unsure, but if her sister believed in this guy, then he must be alright. Besides, they were going to a party, and parties were always fun. "Come on, the party's this way." The colt smiled as he turned and walked back into the forest. "Yay, party time!" Pinky bounced happily after the colt. Bellamina followed slowly after the two. The flame of the lantern flickered back to life as the images faded from the walls. Pinky stared at the walls that had shown the images she had long since forced herself to forget about. She didn't like where this was going, but she was too ignorant to realize that the colt gave off a bad vibe. She was too focused on parties. She gulped heavily as she opened the door back up and re-entered the hallway. She looked at the hole before her with the text written under it. Sleek and smooth, striking the spray, its tail lets it move. The image of a snake came to her mind. A bad feeling ran through her as she carefully pulled out the tie with the snake on it, placing it carefully into the slot. The light turned the area into a door, just as the previous one had. Oh boy. Alright, this one's gonna be dark. She hesitantly walked into the room, trying to prepare herself for whatever it was she was about to witness. The light of her lantern faded away. "Well, what are you doing to my sister?" the young Pinkamena cried from behind the bars of a steel cage. The colt had locked her inside under the guise that they'd be playing pin the tail on the pony. "Don't look so sad, little filly," the colt said. Oh wait, I need to do this with. "Don't look so sad, little filly," the colt said with a dazed over smile. Pinkamena looked into his eyes and saw nothing. It was as if the colt truly had no soul to him. "I'm just about to play one of the most wonderful games with your sister." She doesn't look like she's having fun," Pinkamena cried out, looking at her sister, who was strapped down on a table. She was frantic, trying to pry herself free from the bonds. The straps were too tight. She could do little more than twitch various parts of her body. He knew what he was doing. "Oh, she may not look like it now, but I've played this game with lots of ponies before. Just look around you. I've had many friends over the years." A wry smile came to his face before he turned his back on her. Pinkamena looked around the colt's basement. It was the first time she'd paid any attention to it. Suddenly, the horrifying stench of the room was obvious. It was coming from the various states of the cave and the ponies that adorned the room. Most were of young fillies, with a little more than their heads remaining as decorations. The colt had dressed up the room for a party using the bones and skin from the ponies he had killed. "Wait a minute. This is like cupcake. What the hell?" "No, stop, please!" came the hysterical cries from her sister. Pikamine's attention instantly snapped back to what was happening before her. "That's right, make the noise. It's what I long for." The colt laughed as Pinkamena watched as he carefully placed his scalpel against her skin. With precision, he began to cut away at her. The scream of her younger sister echoed around the room as the image faded. The flame came to life, illuminating the dark room once more. Tears streamed down Pinky's face like they'd never felt before. Philomena, she sobbed to herself as she remembered the horrific images of her sister being dissected alive by the cult. She had tossed the memory aside a long time ago, a memory that had been too horrific for her to want to remember. Her precious sister had become nothing more than a plaything for that deranged cult. She hiccuped as she gasped for breath between her sobs. She still had 2 times left to go. She had more memories to remember. She had to remember everything that had happened for the sake of her sister. It took her a long time to leave that room, very quietly closing the door behind her. She had to see everything first. See it all before she could say anything. She very quietly walked to the next section of the wall and read the text below the square hole. Soft to the touch, it soars over its fears, its tail stabilizes. Pinky quickly took the tile with the bird on it and placed it into the hole. The door appeared just as it had with the others. She walked inside, staring at the walls as the light once again faded for a lantern. Come on, you must eat. There's no point in letting yourself go hungry. The cult chuckled to himself, his cold, harsh, cutting laugh. Pink and Mina had curled up in the back of the cage, having cried her heart out. All that remained of her sister now was the lifeless upper half that was still strapped to the table. She hadn't seen what he'd done with the rest of her after he'd finished. Here, I even made you this special treat, he said, opening a small hole in the cage, pushing a plate with a cupcake on it. Pink and Mina didn't want his treat. Nothing made by this cruel cold could truly be worth eating. Her stomach let out a growl. She hadn't eaten since breakfast and had been hoping to stuff her face with a feast from the party. See, you're hungry. You should eat. Pink and Mina's body defied her mind as it slowly got up and walked to the cupcake. She snipped the cupcake carefully. But it was hard to smell anything past the stench of decay in the room. She then very carefully licked at the frosting that lay on top of the cupcake. The sweet, sugary taste hit her tongue, almost as if in defiance of what her mind was telling her. Her mind screamed something was wrong. She very carefully opened her mouth and took a bite out of the cupcake. Good. I'm glad you're eating. It would be a shame if your sister went to waste. The cult chuckled ominously. The flavor of the cupcake hit Pink and Mina's senses like a brick. This wasn't a sweet and sugary cupcake. It was salty and chewy, almost as if the main ingredient had been... yeah. The cult laughed as he watched the expression of the young filly's face distort. Pink and Mina vomited, rushing back to the back of the cage, where she coughed and sputtered, trying to get the vial from her mouth. The imposing laugh of the cult hit her ears, causing her tears to return. A loud crash was heard from the top of the staircase leading to this basement. The cult looked up surprised, his eyes widening. He suddenly tried to open the cage like a mad beast, as if he absolutely had to reach Pink and Mina. He managed to open it as he began to reach a hoof in sight when he was suddenly tackled by another large figure. There was loud yelling, as if there was a fight going on. Another large figure appeared before the cage, reaching to try and grab Pink and Mina. No, no! Pink and Mina cried out as she tried to resist the figure pulling her out of her cage. It's okay, don't be afraid. That evil cult can't hurt you anymore. The voice that came from the figure was comforting, reassuring. It was nothing like that of the cult's. Pink and Mina looked up briefly at the figure as it pulled her out of the cage, holding her in one of his legs. The cult had a white coat with striking red hair. He wore a blue uniform adorned with a blue hat. It's okay, we're the good guys. We've come to take you home, he said with a smile as he moved quickly to get her out of the basement. I was rescued, she said, remembering as the light came back. But It'd have been too late. They didn't make it in time to save my sister. Pinky shook her head. And that vile treat. Even the thought of the cupcake was making her stomach turn. It's hard to believe any pony could be that cruel. She walked back into the hallway as thoughts continued to bounce through her head. Those words I spoke in another memory make sense now, though. After having eaten that, I really didn't feel like ever eating again. She looked up at the last hole in the wall. The words underneath it read, "A slick texture. It sustains us for most. It tails propels it forward." Pinky carefully pulled out the last tile, the picture of a fish on it, and placed it into the hole. She carefully wiped away a few tears forming in her eyes as the door appeared. She carefully walked through, seeing what the last of her hidden memories had to offer. Oh, now here comes the deep part. Pink and Mina sobbed into Octavia's coat. The older sister had been doing her best to comfort her younger sister, but no matter what she tried, she couldn't get the filly to sleep. Burp. Pink and Mina had barely eaten. She refused to sleep and she constantly was sobbing. Octavia had no idea what it was that her sister had seen. All she knew was that Bellamina was dead. That fact alone seemed to have Pink and Mina jumping at the shadows. "Oh my, I hear crying," came a very soft, soothing voice. "Grammy Pie," Octavia said. Grammy Pie," Octavia said, surprised, looking up to to see their grandmother walk into the dark room carrying a lantern. "Grammy," Pink and Mina sniffed as she saw her grandmother. "It's me, child." She smiled warmly as she walked closer, placing the lantern on the nightstand, then nuzzling the crying filly. "What troubles you?" The sound of her gentle voice seemed to soothe something deep inside the filly's soul. Pink and Mina's sobs slowly turned to sniffles as she composed herself to speak before her grandmother. Bellamina's dead, Grammy," Pink and Mina choked a little. "Yes, I know, dear. It's a fact we all must deal with now," Grammy said solemnly. "We have all done our share of mourning, and we shall ever mourn her loss. But your tears seem to hide something more, my child. They seem to hide more than just your loss." Pink and Mina rubbed her eyes as she sniffed, looking away from her grandmother, burying her head into Octavia's coats. "I'm never throwing another party as long as I live," she sobbed. "Oh, child, why would you say such a thing? You know we love your parties, and you love to throw 'em," Granny Pie said, surprised at the sudden words of her granddaughter. My party got Bellamina killed," she sobbed at the words out into Octavia's coat. Octavia did her best to try and comfort the filly. Their grandmother looked a little sad, but closed her eyes as she seemed to understand. "My dear Pink and Mina, if nothing else, you should continue to throw your parties." She spoke softly but truly. "Huh?" Pink and Mina and Octavia said in unison as they both turned to look at their grandmother. "You see, Pink and Mina, your sister loved your parties. She truly had fun at 'em. Sometimes all she could talk about with me was how much fun she had at your last party." Grammy Pie chuckled to herself as she remembered. "Which is why I'm telling you, continue to throw your parties, child, in honor and memory of your sister. Your sister would not want to see you live the rest of your life being afraid and crying. She'd want to see you smiling for the rest of your days." Grammy Pie's smile was warm as the words shaped she spoke were the truth. But Pinkamena sniffed as she tried to comprehend her grandmother's words, being only a filly as she was. But the world is so scary, Grammy. How can I have a smile in it? Simply, my child, she chuckled softly to herself. You have to laugh your tears away. Laugh? Pinkamena asked curiously. Oh, this is probably where Giggle from the Ghosty comes from. It was a lesson she remembered often from her childhood. Her grandmother would often visit her and teach her how to laugh at the fears, stand up to the shadows and the idea of monsters. To laugh her fears away, she could face anything the world had to throw at her so long as she had the inner strength to laugh when the day was over. She had forgotten why her grandmother had repeated the lesson so often to her. In her memories, before she had just thought of it, was because she had been afraid of the dark as a filly. She knew now that it was because of something much deeper. This is getting a bit emotional, even for me. A small smile crept onto her face as she remembered all of the memories she had forgotten now. Their good memories, the bad memories, the ugly ones, the beautiful ones. She hadn't locked them away to keep herself happy, to try and keep Bellamina's wishes true. She hadn't been ready to accept the memories in her heart as fact. She carefully left the last of the rooms that contained her memories. She could feel the slow, rhythmic beat of her heart that resonated loudly through her. A smile was on her face as she remembered her sister fondly. So, there's just one last thing to do then, she said as she looked to the door at the end of the hallway. She slowly walked towards it, her resolution holding firm in her heart. She knew what she had to do now. She opened the door, stepping out. Outside of the door, she saw 4 torches lit around an open area. A pathway was lit for her leading to it. A fence was placed along the path, an area so she couldn't go anywhere else. She gently put her lantern away as she walked towards the center of the area. She could feel small tremors shaking through the world as she walked. As she reached one side of the arena, from the ground to the opposite side, the slender pony emerged from ground. He stood tall over her, his presence still bearing down. But she wasn't afraid this time. I finally understand now, Pinky said softly, shaking her head slowly before looking at the slender pony with a smile. My fear of your presence, your stature over me, your very existence. You're the colt, aren't you? The slender pony just stood there, unchanging from Pinky's words. Well, you're not him exactly, but you're my image of him. She closed her eyes and smiled. Which means I'm not afraid of you anymore. The slender pony began to walk towards her, her every step seeming to echo across the arena. Pinky opened her eyes as she watched the pony walk towards her. Her mouth began to quiver as she saw him get closer. She felt the haze beginning to hit her mind, the phonograph letting out its static. My neck hurts. Knack. Snap. Sorry for the knack thing, I don't know. She stood firm where she was, remembering fondly the words of her grandmother, the memories of her younger sister, of her friends back in Ponyville, of the fun she had throughout her life thanks to the help everyone she's ever known gave to her. All of them helped her live a life she could say she was proud of. The slender pony stood a few feet from her, but the haze he brought to her mind began to fade. Her quivering mouth puckered up for a moment before a soft sound came from it. It started off low as it gained its footing inside Pinkie Pie. The confidence grew in her with each sound that came from her. The haze lifting, the sound of the phonograph becoming more quiet. She was oh damn. That just instantly dried up my throat. She was laughing. She was laughing at the fear that this pony, no, that, blah, that this whole town had brought upon her. So, just so that she could become strong enough to face her fears. She laughed, she giggled, she snorted, she chuckled. It felt like it'd been a lifetime since she had last let out a laugh. She had let out so many tears that had been pent up for years, so many pains and torments she had kept inside. For the first time in a long, long while, she laughed with all her heart. A bright light shone from her neck as a golden necklace with a blue balloon gem appeared. Her laughter continued as the light from the necklace made the slender pony jump back, letting out a shrilling cry as it seemed to hurt him. The entire area began to shake with a gigantic tremor as it began to fall apart. All of the scenery around it began to fall into the bottomless pit that lay beneath them. The entire world was crumbling and shattering around them. The slender pony let out another painful roar as he dissolved back into the ground, disappearing from Pinky's sight. She had calmed her laughing, enough so that she could speak. I won't forget you, Mr. Cold, and I don't think I can ever truly forgive you for what you did, but I can move on now. She closed her eyes as she smiled brightly. The golden necklace around her neck shined brightly as it shot a beam of light forward, hitting the air before forming into a door of light. The necklace then vanished to wait for the next time it would be needed. It's time for me to head home. For real this time. Pinky smiled happily as she walked through the door of light, the last of the world crumbling away behind her, and big empty page. Epilogue, the truth. Twilight pulled her head back, rubbing her forehead as she groaned. The spell was an unusual one indeed. First, she couldn't see anything other than a strange black void with just a floating picture, whose content was constantly shifting. Now, on top of that, the spell just ended on its own. She shook her head before looking at her pink friend. Pinky still had her eyes closed. Pinky, you alright? Twilight asked, not sure if she had been released from the effects of the spell yet like she had. It took a moment, but soon Pinky's eyes slowly opened. Wait, Derp, you okay? It wasn't too much, was it? Twilight asked, a little worried about her friend. Pinky simply blinked before smiling and lowering her head, closing her eyes. Twilight blinked a little confused at this behavior. Thank you, Twilight, were the first words to come from to leave Pinky's mouth. Oh, did it work? Twilight asked, softly smiling. It did, and I thank you so much for helping me, Pinky said, lifting her head, letting Twilight see it smile on Pinky's face. If you hadn't helped me, who knows what would have happened? I mean, I probably would have been driven insane. She twirled her eyes in example, then chuckling at herself. But I won't now, and it's all thanks to you. Oh, well, I was doing it to help a friend in need. Twilight said, smiling, accepting the compliments in her usual manner. This has been a pretty crazy experience, Pinky chuckled. So, I hope I'm not prying, but do you know what was causing those nightmares now? Twilight asked curiously. I do, Pinky said, but shifted her head a little. But I'll tell you about it later, I promise. Right now, she stood up. I have a few things I need to take care of. I hope you don't mind. Oh, but of course. I'm just happy I was able to help, Twilight smiled. Pinky smiled back as she headed towards Twilight's door to help. A thought struck her and she stopped. Oh, hey, Twilight. Before I go, I need 2 favors, Pinky said happily. Sure, what'd you need? Well, first I'll need you to cast a cloud walking spell for me, and second, do you have any red ribbon on you? Pinky asked curiously. Rainbow Dash was getting in a good afternoon. Oh, we got on a Rainbow Dash here. Dun dun dun. Rainbow Dash was getting in a good afternoon nap in her home when she was awoken by several knocks on the door. There's people laughing outside. What the hell? Whatever. Mm, uh," she said as she stirred from her sleep. Her ears wiggled as she heard the door being knocked on. Yeah, hold your horseshoes, I'm coming. She yawned, stretching as she woke up. She walked over to the door, opening it up. Almost instantly, she was attacked by a pink blur that proceeded to hug her, knocking her onto her back. What the? Oh, you nearly said it. She nearly said it. What the fuck? She said in surprise before realizing blah, blah, blah. She said in surprise before realizing that her assaulter was Pinkie Pie. Oh, Pinkie Pie? Rainbow Dash said, sitting up slowly. What's the idea? You know it's my nap time, Rainbow Sugar had as Pinkie slowly let go. I know, and I'm sorry for waking you, Pinkie smiled. A lot's happened and I really need to see and I really just had to see you. Well, that's alright then. I certainly can't depend on a friend in need, Rainbow Dash said, brushing her hair with a hoof. What's on your mind, Pinks? Pinks? Wow. It's a really long story, Dash. A long and, well, a rather sad one. Pinkie said with a hint of melancholy? I don't know. And I'm more than willing to tell you, but I hope you don't mind if I keep you waiting a little while to hear the story. Pinkie ran a hoof through her hair. I still have some things to deal with before I'm really ready to tell other ponies about it. A sad story? That's not like you, Pinkie Pie. You're always about being upbeat, fun, and having a good time. What could be so sad about something recently happening to you? Rainbow asked a little curiously about her friend. Pinkie giggled a little, smiling at Dash. You'll know when you hear it. Just trust me for the moment. After all, I came in to hang out with you for a little while, if you don't mind. Of course not. A visit from my gal pal is always welcome. Rainbow smiled as she flew over to another part of her house. Do you want a snack? Oh, would you like a snack? I got some fresh apples from Applejack. They're really good. Ugh. That sounds delightful, Pinkie said, walking further into Rainbow's house. Rainbow returned with the apples, the two ponies sharing the snack together. They talked, they laughed, they reminisced about some of the adventures they'd been going on since Twilight had arrived in town. Rainbow thought it was a little weird that Pinkie had been so sentimental, but figured she must have a good reason. It's been a few hours just hanging out in her home. So, Pinkie, Rainbow said after they had just finished a conversation about possible pranks they could do in the future. What's with the red ribbon in your hair? Rainbow asked curiously. Pinkie turned her head to look at the ribbon she had tied in a boat on her mane. She smiled softly before looking at Rainbow Dash. Well, let's just say it's helping me remember what dear friends I really have, she chuckled. I didn't know you needed a ribbon for that. After all, we're all right here. Rainbow Dash smiled, putting a hoof to her chest. I know, Pinkie laughed, but I didn't need the reminder. She gently nuzzled her hair with the ribbon attached to it. She then smiled softly before looking up at Rainbow Dash. Dash, I'm going away for a while, Pinkie announced to her. Huh? Rainbow always said, almost spitting out the apple juice she had been sipping on. Going away, but why? I've got something I need to take care, Pinkie said, looking away at Rainbow Dash, though still smiling. I'm going out to go see my sister Octavia. Well, we could go with you, you know. You don't have to go alone, Rainbow explained. I know, but this is really something I have to do myself, she chuckled as she gently batted her straight hair with her hoof. Especially if I want it to be this if I want this to be poofy again. So you're sure this is what you need? Rainbow Dash asked once again. It is, Pinkie smiled, looking at Rainbow Dash. Dash looked conflicted. She certainly didn't want Pinkie to go away, but she also had to support her friend. Hey, you gotta do what you gotta do, right? Rainbow said, putting on a strong face and gently hitting Pinkie's shoulder. Besides, you'll be coming back, right? Of course I will. I can never abandon you and the other girls here in Ponyville. You're my bestest friends ever. I can't think of what life would be like without you all, Pinkie explained happily. Then go ahead, we'll see you off. We'll see you off, of course. Those things might be quiet without you around, Rainbow said, smiling. I know, I'll bring so many smiles here, which is why I could never stay away for long, Pinky chuckled again. Classical music filled the halls. The small group of ponies played on the stage to a large crowd. Their instruments were finely tuned. They never missed a beat or a chord, as they all played in perfect harmony. The very soul of their music resonated through the hall and the hearts of all the ponies attending. The final chords were played, and the auditorium was filled with applause as they took their bows. The curtains came to a close on the stage as the band members began to pick up their instruments. That was probably our best performance ever. Oh, that was probably our best performance yet, Beauty Brass said as she put her sousaphone. What the hell's that? I don't know. I still feel like we could do better, Frederick said as his piano was pushed off to the side. I still say we should add in some of Beethoven's earlier work. His later work is magnificent, but it doesn't compare to the wonderment his early work provided, Harpo said as his harp was also carted off. We sounded fantastic, guys. Don't worry about it too much, Octavia chuckled at her fellow bandmates. It was a great performance, so we've got a well-deserved night of rest. Octavia smiled as she placed her cello into its container. She pulled the strap over her shoulders, placing the instruments on her back. She always refused help with putting her beloved instrument away. Hey, you're not supposed to be back there, the band heard the security guard say loudly. They turned their heads to see who he was yelling at. I know, but my sister's in the band, and I really need to talk to her, Pinky begged at the security guard. We didn't hear anything about any of the band members getting a family visit today, the security guard said, grabbing Pinky by the leg. Hey, I'm not lying, Pinky said, trying to get the security guard to let go. It's okay, sir, Octavia said, walking up to the guard. She's my sister, though she did come by rather unannounced, Octavia said, looking at Pinky curiously, before noticing her hair was straight, something she hadn't seen in a long time now. Well, all right. If the band says you're okay, then you are. Just don't come in unannounced next time, the security guard huffed off before walking off. Hey, do you need some time to yourself? Beauty asked as she walked up to Octavia. Yeah, sorry guys. Go ahead and do your own things. I'll see you back at the hotel later, Octavia smiled. Beauty Brass understood and walked off to the rest of the band. Sorry, sis. I should have probably given you more warning. Then again, I didn't know... Then again, I didn't really know I was going to be sitting off till I basically did. Still, I could have written, Pinky chuckled. Yeah, it would have been nice, Octavia chuckled back. At least you didn't interrupt my performance this time, Pinky blushed while smiling, still remembering the gala. Come on, let's grab some dinner and we can talk. Pinky dined on a fresh daisy salad, while Octavia enjoyed a French daffodil soup. So, Pinky, Octavia started as she finished taking a sip of her soup. Why the sudden visit? I assume it has to do with something that's bugging you. I can't hide anything from you, can I, sis? Pinky smiled as she took another bite of her salad. Not really. Your hair doesn't go down unless you're upset about something, Octavia said as her eyes wandered down to the red ribbon in Pinky's hair. The ribbon is new, though. Well, the two topics are related, Pinky said before giving a soft cig as she smiled. I know I'm about to ask a lot of you, Octavia. What with you on tour and all, and it's been a long time since either of us brought this up. Octavia ate another spoonful of soup as she watched her sister curiously. Not sure what to expect, but I'd like the two of us to go visit Bellamy's grave. Octavia nearly dropped the spoon. She quickly swallowed the contents in her mouth. This is rather sudden, Pinky, Octavia said, surprised her sister would bring it up. If that's what you really want, our next concert isn't till next week in Huffington, so if we left now, we could make it to the farm with enough time for me to get back. Oh, thank you, sis, Pinky said happily. You really are the best sister in the world, she chuckled happily. Sure, I'll do this so long as you tell me what's going on, Octavia smiled. Deal, Pinky said back. The wind blew across the rocky field as the two sisters stood before the younger sister's grave. It was a hand-carved rock marker, carefully crafted to look like their younger sister, sitting with a smile. She sat on top of a slab that read, "Here lays Bellamina Mary Pie, a beloved daughter, a wonderful sister, and an angel in filly form." Damn, that's saddening, truly. That's really quite a story, Pinky, Octavia said, looking at Pinky. Pinky had told her about going through a crazy town that showed her the memories she had forgotten, but not about the monsters she had seen in the town. She only told her sister as much as was needed. Octavia looked back at her sister's grave. But it's good to hear that you've forgiven yourself for what happened. Yeah, I'm glad I did too, but I couldn't say it was official till I at least came here again, Pinky said as she gently placed the roses she had picked up on her sister's grave. I'd forgotten about it because I didn't want to remember, and that's a terrible thing for an older sister to do. So from now on, I promise to visit her once a year. Pinky smiled happily. You know what? If you're going to do that, then I'll join you, Octavia smiled. I've been too focused on my work lately. I haven't given our sister the proper time of day either. Thank you, Pinky said, nuzzling against Octavia. You're my sister. I've always been here for you if you need me, sis. Octavia nuzzled her sister back, smiling happily. The sisters shared their happy embrace. Octavia, Pinkamina, dinner's ready, their mother called from the farmhouse. Coming, Octavia called out. Come on, let's get some dinner, sis. I'll be right there, Pinky smiled to Octavia. Octavia nodded and headed towards the farm. Hey, Bellamina, Pinky said softly, getting closer to her sister. You are a wonderful sister. Thank you so much for being my sister. I love you. She kissed the forehead of her sister's statue. She then turned around and began to walk back to the farm. Her hair poofed out and curled, returning to her usual bubby self. The end. That was, a really beautiful story, really, with some grim in between. It was definitely a long one, oh boy, we're at already over 3 hours. Holy crap. Alright, so, yeah. I'm gonna render this and I'll put it up for you guys. Well, that's actually pretty weird to say right now. I'm sorry about the little, personal thing in between. It just came to my mind. And I hope you guys understand that I didn't do this in one part. And, oh yeah, also a thing you guys might know is this Saturday, or was it a Sunday? I'm not sure. Let's see, what day is it today? It is currently Wednesday the 11th. So that means in 3 days, which is a Saturday. Alright. It's going to be my birthday in 3 days. Yes, July the 14th. It's my birthday. I'm going to be turning 15, derp. I'm forgetting my own age already. I'm going to be, I'm going to have my birthday. I'll put a video out for it just so you guys, can really start to know. And, I hope to get a good birthday. I'm not asking for any presents. I'm more asking for money, because I want to create my own computer, which is, let me think. It'll be about 400 euros for a gaming computer that I can put up in my room. I also hope to, when my mom starts working, that I can get a TV on my room, which I'll connect my PC to, so I can finally start gaming again. Because believe me, my current PC, piece of crap. If you want to know how big a piece of crap, look at my, what's it called? Luna game Let's Play. That was lagging like hell, and that's really a simple game. But yeah, I hope you guys enjoyed. The next one will be Trixie's Funhouse. I'm not sure what fanfic that is, but Trixie and Funhouse just doesn't seem right together, but yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video, and I hope you enjoyed this reading. So yeah, bye, I guess. Yeah, that'll probably be the best. What the hell am I doing? Alright, but yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video.